You are listening to Castles and Cryptids, where the castles are haunted and the cryptids are cryptic as fuck. And I am Alanna.
I'm Kelsey.
And I'm pretty sure this is episode 108 because I
Yeah.
had to double check.
We had to change our numbers, so I got confused too. I was trying to fix the website. I was like, oh, I had all our episodes pre-done, and then it was like, oh shit. And it was like relinking sources and changing episode names. Like, fuck's sakes.
We split it again. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's true. And sometimes I ask you before we start because I'm like, what episode are we on? I should know this before we go on air.
Yeah.
And we're on. No. Like a real radio station. No. Yeah. Apparently this is end up at 108 because we had things that happened and we hope you liked them because we had like a bonus episode 1 week and then by the next week it
Yeah.
was like, are we gonna get the episode out in time?
Right?
Because we were doing our Patreon one and it was during that one that your mic decided to crap out. So anyway, it was a whole
Yeah.
thing. And not so much crap out as fall apart.
I knocked it off the table and somehow broke the USB-C side of the cable that plugs in because the mic is heavy and it was falling and it caught on the cable and it must have, I don't know, it just broke off the metal part that actually plugs into the mic, and then all the little pieces that would make up what plugs into the mic, all like these little fibery looking metallic pieces, and all these layers just broke apart and like spread across my carpet, and I was like, well, that's not good.
Nope.
Yeah, and then it was hard to find one because the outside of the mic is weird. It has to plug in really deep, and the plastic part of most of the cables is too big. It won't fit inside because it's so little.
Just yes, when you're like, this is, could
Yeah.
almost fit like my phone charger or whatever, but it's
Yeah,
just like,
I
oh,
was
we're
like,
a
I
bit
have
off.
I have three USB-C cables, and I even had micro
Seriously.
USB cables. None of them, well, the micro one would have worked anyway, but none of them,
Oh, they
like
must be
none of
really
them
small.
worked. Yeah, those ones are like the um I guess the standard like Android looking ones. They use it for like Kindle, and like my headphone charger's the same one and stuff like that.
Yes, because I
So
think I was
it's the
telling
one
you my
that's
headphone charger
yeah.
matches my phone, so I keep that little short one at work, but it's just like the littlest,
Yeah.
shortest little cord.
Yeah, it's probably like the one that looks almost like an HDMI cable where it's like the is it hexagon? Not hexagon.
I don't know. They're kind of rounded, like
Yeah.
a rounded rectangle. I'm not too
Yeah.
sure.
But
It does remind me
anyway,
of some
so
GIF I saw where it was about Android users and iPhone users, which is why it made me think of it.
yeah.
Because it was like this cartoon with a big brain, like Android users. Oh, I can download, or what was it? I can listen to anything I want without downloading it, and also plug in a headphone jack. And then it was like iPhone users like trying to put a square peg in like a round hole kind of thing. Like,
Yes. I
I'm
tell ya.
okay.
I mean, when I bought my phone, uh it was the first one I had since getting rid of like having iPhone for probably almost 6 or 7 years, and
Ooh,
it
long
didn't
time in the
have this
cult.
yeah, it didn't have the storage I wanted on the Samsung one. So
Mm.
when I was buying my phone, I bought an external little chip that you could put into my phone that has storage. So I can
Oh.
take this chip out and
Mm-hmm.
like I could put stuff on it and put it back in my phone, and it had I think I got one that was like 50 gigabytes just so I could put almost all of my music on it, so that the rest of my like 30 some gigabytes that are my phone, now I have like 80 gigabytes.
Right.
And yeah,
So it
where
kind of
like
like, I mean,
iPhone, you can't do that. You can't plug an external like storage thing into it at
God
all.
forbid. Like an external
No.
hard drive, sort of, or
Yeah, it's
or
almost like a little
memory. card.
Like a little memory card, but it like fits. It's in my phone.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and like iPhone doesn't do that. It you buy it with the storage you want. And like Samsung was nice. At least I could like add this storage to it.
iPhone's like, you get what you get and you don't get upset.
Yeah. And you
No
don't get a
upgrades.
charger and yeah.
No modifications.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah. No, I've never had an iPhone, but don't know that I ever will.
I have to say they're a lot more user friendly. They are great for that part,
yeah.
but yeah, I think I had 3 or 4 different iPhones in a row, and then yeah.
You said I know.
Well, all the new iPhones, when it came to me wanting to get my phone, none of them had the headphone jack anymore, and they were getting bigger and bigger, and I didn't want that, and I wanted the headphone jack, so I ended up going to Samsung. And then Samsung got rid of a lot of
Yeah.
their headphone jacks now too, so now I just have a phone that's like
I
6
don't.
years old, but it's still chugging along. It works just as good as the day I bought it, so see how long it works till
Yeah.
it dies.
That's not something I even use anymore because I've had the
I
wireless earbuds for a couple of
don't
years
really.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really, but the the music app I have, for some reason it keeps glitching out, and every time it refreshes like the ad that's supposed to be playing on screen, it like pauses my music. And then sometimes it
Ew.
doesn't come on until I like tap the phone back awake, like if it went asleep. And then
Ugh.
it like resumes the music. And it's been doing it for like 6 months. So I like never listen to music on my phone anymore because it's just really annoying.
Yeah, I hate anything that unnecessarily stops it. And my phone has been
Yeah,
just like
it's weird.
glitching so much lately. Yeah. I was like,
Mm.
am I using a CD player that's skipping as I walk around? Because this
Yeah.
everything I used lately, it didn't matter if it was like Spotify or YouTube or whatever. I was like, it's clearly my phone because
Oh.
everything is like
Oh, okay.
freezing and like, you know what
That
I mean,
sucks.
doing the red circle of death. Yeah, I don't know. It's
Yeah.
been a little bit better. I restarted it. Who knows?
Yeah. I end up just downloading like the newer
Crimes and
episodes of Crimes and
consequences.
Consequences, and then I listen to that when I cut the grass, or
Well, this is what made me laugh about the GIF.
yeah.
It was something like implying that like you have to download every, episode to listen to something or whatever. And when things say that, I'm
Oh,
like, that's insane. Nobody could do that. That's so much
yeah.
space. You have to go in and
That would
delete
be
everything.
annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anywho's it. We digress.
Yeah. You didn't come here for tech recommendations.
Tech reckies. Maybe you
I don't think.
did. You never
Yeah.
know. I heard on a podcast today you can get Discovery Plus with an email. And I was like, well, maybe that's some free trial shit, but I like a good tip like that.
Yeah.
Love a
Nice.
hot tip. Maybe
Yeah.
someone's been having the same technological woes as we have. We don't know.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm sure Kelsey's going to kick us off, but I can start you with a weird fact or
Sure.
I was like, maybe I should call this a, you know how you see on the internet like TIL, like today I learned sometimes. It's often on
Yeah.
Reddit, but yeah. I was like, this is my segment because it's always like today I heard about. This I was listening to one of the podcasts on our network, shout out. Um so maybe we'll include their little promo, but it was on ODFM pod and they had talked about something that was called an ugly carnival. And I was like, well, never heard that.
What? Ugly carnival. I'm
So,
intrigued. What's that?
well, the context was, uh, God, from what I can remember, they were talking about post World War II or whatever. And they're like, this person had their head shaved for I don't know. They're associating with a German officer or whatever. Because there's like a lot of the SS officers and stuff in World War II
Yeah.
had babies with people in different countries and stuff like
Yeah.
that. War bastards. I don't know. It was like something along those lines. And then they were like, oh, this person was like had her head shaved after the war because they like amongst all the D-Day celebrations decided they should shame people that had anything to do with anything or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Aw.
I guess that's what it was. When I pull it up on the Guardian.com, they show a picture of a woman's head being shaved. This is just reminding me super hard of Game of Thrones and Cersei and her walk of shame after she had
Oh
her head
yeah.
shaved.
Shame.
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 Shame. This article said, as we mark the 65th anniversary of the D-Day landings, Anthony Beevor describes a dark side to the liberation parties, the brutal head shaving and beating of women accused of collaboration. So it doesn't seem great. It's not one of
Yeah.
those like those two people kissing after the war is over. It's more like, let's
Yeah, that's
fucking
not
maybe
good.
vilify anyone we can find. It's
Wow.
like, I don't know. That's what it makes me think of because it's just like you know, to bring
Weird.
shame on anyone who may have like had contact with the Nazis and stuff like that. And it was just like,
Yeah.
well, dude, there's a lot going on then. Like, we're still prosecuting people for war
Yeah,
crimes from World War
exactly.
II and trying to. And
Yeah.
really weird practice, though. Like, I don't know. I didn't really look into it other than that, but
Weird. Yeah, I never heard of that, but it kind of makes
no.
sense. People always, I guess, when there is like a dominant power or something like that going on that
Yeah.
ends up being negative, the people that were associated or had kids or were in relations with them or anything, it's typically looked down on, but
Maybe the other people were trying
yeah.
to distance themselves so much from being any kind of supporter
Yeah.
that they're like, let's just do what we can to vilify this person.
Yeah, focus
Just
on
kind
these
of,
specific people.
yeah, the way people will
Yeah.
kind of quote unquote virtue signal, being like, I'm a good person. I would never do that because I stand with these people, or I do this and I do
Right.
that. It's like,
Yeah.
you
Oh.
shouldn't have to sit here and say you stand with like gay people or whatever. It should just be a given. I don't know. But anyway, we don't want that one to get too unfun, but yeah.
Oh, it's about to get real unfun. I feel like this will be a really depressing episode because
Yeah.
I
Honestly,
don't
I don't
know.
know.
Yeah.
It can be. I don't know how some podcasts can only cover disappearances. Like, it would be
I
hard.
couldn't. I'd be so sad.
Yeah.
And I
They're
need a.
fascinating. Like, I really,
They
really
are,
like
but I don't like
doing them.
unsolved cases, really. So,
Yeah. We like it all wrapped up in
yeah.
a neat little package.
Yeah, they aren't my favorite. But this one, I didn't remember hearing ever any of these details about it, but or even this
Okay.
person's name. But when I first was trying to find a case, I saw a picture of her and it was like, I have seen that picture like dozens of times. And I was like, I don't know the case, but I know this picture, which is
Oh.
kind of why I got interested in being like, why do I know this picture? And kind of thing. Never really figured out where I possibly could have heard this from, but I definitely have seen this picture so
Okay.
many times. And probably a lot of our listeners will have too.
But like, so the case
Yeah.
when you went into it, you weren't as familiar with just the
No,
picture?
no
Oh.
familiarity with any of it. Didn't know how I would have ever seen this picture. Like,
Weird.
yeah, wouldn't have ever looked at it and been like, she's a missing person. Nothing. No recognition at all, but I just knew the picture. It was weird.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
I can see that. Like sometimes you just see a
yeah.
face and you're like, they look familiar. I've seen them before or whatever.
Yeah. And this one is fairly popular as well. It's been covered many, many times, especially on YouTube. It's pretty insane
Oh.
how many different podcasts and YouTubers have covered this case because a bunch of stuff looked came up when I was looking it up and it was all people that had already covered it, but Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. And I think
Hmm.
that's just because it's very bizarre. There's a lot going on. So
Ooh.
this is the disappearance of Diane Augat. I think is how you would say her
Oh.
name. I didn't listen to anything else, so sorry if that's wrong. But I'm going to be calling her Diane.
Oh, darn pronunciations.
And
Yeah, I get you. I am
yeah,
not sure that that does sound familiar. Interesting.
yeah. So she was born Diane Louise Young, born on February 21st, 1958,
Oh,
to
wow. Okay.
parents James and Mildred Young. I love the name Mildred. It's so cute.
Really? It is very
Yeah,
old-timey.
I love it. It's so nice. The family at that time was living in New York, but they later relocated to Tampa, Florida. And
Go on, Mildred. I'm just kidding.
yeah, by the late 1970s, Diane had gotten married to a man named Frederick Augat. And
Oh.
I don't know exactly when they got married because at this time, she would have been at most like 19. She got married, maybe.
Okay.
Um, yeah. And she became a stay at home wife and ended up taking care of the couple's three kids.
Oh, wow.
Uh, mhm. There was two daughters and a son, and Diane and the family were known to keep a really neat house. It was really orderly, and people described that she was living a picture perfect life. The
I mean,
fa-
from the outside.
yeah,
Whoever
uh,
is.
right. The family really enjoyed camping and going fishing, and they actually spent many weekends outdoors.
Aw, I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, just doing stuff. Denise, who's Diane's sister, later recalls, quote, she had $100 pocketbooks, she was pretty, and there could be 1,000 people in the room, and you'd still notice her.
Oh,
Which,
okay.
yeah.
That goes
So, like, they
beyond
had
your smile lights
money.
up a room.
Yeah,
She's
like, had money. She was,
okay.
yeah, I think she was probably a really great person. Uh, yeah, and it could have been the picture perfect family, but this all kind of changes in the not 1890s, wow, 1980s.
One of those
After,
ones.
yeah, I didn't even type it. I just started saying it wrong. It's like it was typed
Yeah,
right. Um,
happens.
After a brief period of bizarre behavior, Diane, who was now in her early 20s, was diagnosed with manic depressive disorder, or known more commonly today as like bipolar disorder. Yeah.
Oh, really?
So
Are those
her,
considered the same? Okay. Hmm.
yeah, um, yeah, I don't
Okay,
know
that
if
makes
they
sense
use,
because the periods
yeah,
of depression and then like
yeah, like
fast
mania,
paced.
I
Yeah.
think they call it, yeah. Yeah, so that
Okay.
really changed her behavior. Now she's can be a very, very different person. She began
Sure.
taking these medications to treat this mental illness, and things were going okay for a while. Over some time, Diane ended up kind of stopping her medication, and during these periods, her mental health would decline once again. Then she would kind of start
Yeah.
taking her medications, but she never
Oh.
really stayed on them for very long, it seemed.
Oh, maybe she didn't like the
Hmm.
way they made her feel or something?
Yeah, which I think is can be really common.
Yeah, I've
Um,
heard people say, this helped with my ADHD or anxiety or whatever, but or even from my partner, he said that he's been on pills before that just made him feel numb, like kind of like a zombie. And I just always thought, yeah,
yeah,
that doesn't sound great. I mean, if you already kind of have managed to deal with it in your life, like maybe sometimes it is easier without
yeah,
something that makes you feel that way.
I
But
can
I
see
have no
that.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, not too sure.
So by 1988, this kind of comes out of left field. I don't really have any more information about this. The one source said that the state, by 1988, had charged Diane with child abuse. And
Ooh, okay.
this charge happened after she was alleged to have sought after excessive amount of unneeded treatment for one of her children. Kind of what is now known as Munchausen by proxy. Kind of like that kind of situation going on. Just like trying to get
Yes.
like excessive medical care.
Right, when
Um,
someone's not really sick, but either you believe they're
Possibly.
sick somehow in your mind or you're
Yeah.
trying to make them believe they're sick. Yeah,
Uh,
okay, that's crazy.
I don't have more information about that. It said ultimately she was acquitted of these charges, but the state kept pursuing the case against her in believing that these charges were still true, and later ended up being that the children were completely removed from her custody. Uh,
Oh, wow,
yeah.
okay.
In 1991, with Diane's continued poor behavior and like problems with her mental health, and then this happening with her kids, her and Frederick ended up divorcing, and he got sole custody of their children. So now
Okay.
they're basically out of the picture. I don't know anything more about that really.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Uh
good for
yeah.
a true crime case. I want them to be far away.
Yeah. This ends up greatly affecting Diane's mental health.
Oh,
She's really upset over like her divorce and then losing her three kids. Like I'm sure that was
yeah.
devastating for her.
That's your whole family, your whole life.
Yeah. Over the next several years, her life was spent in and out of different jails as well as different mental health facilities. Um,
Okay.
Her brother-in-law, Al Finkelstein, Finkelstein? I didn't even pay attention to what his last name was until just now. Finkelstein.
That's a common one to,
Sorry.
yeah,
Is it?
Steenstein.
Yeah.
Eh,
I was like,
yeah.
Finkel? Uh,
I feel
that's what
like
was
the
throwing me off.
person has to
Finkel.
tell you if it's Steen or Stein sometimes.
Yeah.
Because, like, Ben Stein, he had a show. Anyway, it was a whole thing.
Yeah. Uh, so yeah, her brother-in-law would later recount to reporters in the Tampa area, quote, "She's constantly talking to herself. You can tell right away that she's ill."
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
that was his quote. And then Diane's mother was also quoted saying, "She hangs out with whoever will be her friend. She's sick. You can't deal with her when she's as manic as she is. She gets in your face and doesn't shut up." So she can be like quite a different person. Yeah.
Interesting. It's hard to know exactly what they mean by some of that, you know? It's kind of
Yeah.
vague. It's kind of like, she gets, and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, what does that mean?
The cops have like a few things just based on their interactions of her. They're quoted as kind of later on. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So being out on her own, Diane developed, unfortunately, a pretty severe drinking problem, as well as began doing drugs.
Oh,
And both of these things caused her bipolar disorder symptoms to get way, way worse. And she's not taking
right.
medication.
I could see that
She,
for sure.
yeah. So she was involuntarily committed to different mental health facilities at least 32 times, either for posing
Wow.
a danger to herself or others.
Oh my
And
goodness.
yeah,
So they can't necessarily hold her on those ones, I would imagine. Like, because
I don't
sometimes you
know
can
how long they
do a
can do, like
24-hour hold.
maybe,
Yeah. Sorry.
I think if it's like posing a danger to yourself or others, maybe it's like 30 days, but uh because she was
Oh.
being involuntarily committed. So I think those are typically longer than like 24 hours, but I don't really know.
Right.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
was in
that's
and out a
all
lot though.
complicated. Mm-hmm.
Her last time being involuntarily committed was in 1998 when she was released into her family's care that spring. I don't know how long she'd been in there for. And her mother Mildred said that she never should have been released, and that, quote, she deeply needed institutionalized care. Like, so they were, I'm sure, really, really concerned about her safety and like everything,
Right.
and they thought she needed some more care, but she was released into their care. So at this point, she's staying
Oh.
at her one sister. She has her one sister Denise, and this point she's living at her sister Deborah's house. Um,
Okay. That could
yeah,
be so tough because if someone does require an intense amount of care, that's very, very expensive to have 24-hour care. Um,
well, this, like, I think they just mean with like psychologists and everything like that. Like, she was
yeah.
functional, so
But like
yeah,
sometimes it seems, yeah, you're right. It probably wouldn't be 24-hour care. Like she's not necessarily got a debilitating physical
no,
disability or whatever. But it's just like sometimes they just not enough money in these things. And
yeah.
um Pat and I were just watching a thing. I was like, "Oh, this book I just read is like on Netflix now." I don't know if I told you. Because it had Tony Collette in it from Hereditary. It was really good. It was this Netflix miniseries
Oh,
called
which one?
Pieces of Her is what it's called. Pieces of
Oh,
Her.
okay.
Yeah, and it's called that because the daughter doesn't know the mom very well. Like they get into the premise, they're having lunch or whatever, and then this kid comes in with a gun, and then um the mom reacts in a way that's like, no, like you don't want to hurt my daughter. Like she just is like very calm with it, and then like in a way, and
Hmm.
like basically takes the uh what do you say, takes the killer out of commission and stuff. And then her, it's all like, oh, what did you do in your past? Her daughter's all like, this is, everyone's like, what the hell,
Um.
she was so crazy, just like super calm and like dealing with this. And um it like anyway, there ends up being like a subplot where these people are trying to get revenge because someone wasn't able to get the care they needed in the mental health facility like 24/7. And then like this guy, like, mini spoiler, kills his family because he doesn't have the mental health
Oh.
resources he
Yeah.
needs. Or like,
Jeez.
yeah, they're like, you owned this group home and you kicked him out, and you guys are just assholes who want to collect the benefits whether someone's getting the treatment they need or not, and blah blah blah. It's a really good series, and the writer, I would really recommend her. Her name's Karen Slaughter. Yeah, it is.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, Scandinavian writer, very, very good books. Totally would recommend.
Cool.
Yeah, you should watch the Netflix series. It was very good.
Yeah,
But
I'll have to give it a watch.
yeah, it just made me think of
Um.
that in a way.
Oh, okay. So that brings us to this. On April 10th, which is Good Friday, 1998, 40-year
Oh,
old Diane is leaving her sister Deborah's house in Hudson, Florida. She's
oh.
basically just walked out the front door. She's kind of walking down. I don't know if it's like a like cul-de-sac or like suburban neighborhood. If she They talk about highways a little bit in this, so I don't know
Hmm.
exactly where she's walking at this point. But she
Okay.
had been out of that mental health facility for just about 2 weeks. And during this time, she had just been staying with her sister, Deborah. And while Diane had actually a home in Odessa, so she has a house in Odessa, but she's staying at her sister Deborah's house because they thought it would be at best for her to stay with family to kind of help her get back on her feet
Sure.
after
Just
she
a little
was
bit more
released.
supervised. Yeah.
Yeah, so she has this house. She's not staying there though. She's in Hudson, Florida with her sister.
Okay.
That morning, Diane's sister had left for a doctor's appointment. A little while later, I'm not sure how long, Diane just left the house around 11 a.m. And she was later seen at the Hayloft Tavern on Little Road and State Road 52.
Hey,
So
loft. Cute.
yeah, right. Diane stayed there until she was kicked out. The
Oh,
mother
wow.
Mildred, yeah. Mother Mildred later told the Tampa Bay Times, quote, "The bartender cut her off because she was walking in circles."
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah. To
Yeah.
my
She's had a
knowledge, that was,
few.
well, yeah.
Jeez.
To my knowledge, that was the last time anyone saw her, except for the one who took her.
So she was like
Uh,
alone?
yeah. She was
Oh
just like
no.
walking down the highway after leaving the bar. Diane's
Damn.
family reported her missing the next day, April 11th. They waited this like kind of 40 or 24-ish hours because she had a history of disappearing and it was normally only for a day or two.
Yeah, okay.
Um, However, this time, like they kind of thought the days were starting to pile up and they were passing by and no one had seen her. Like
Right.
normally you'd kind of hear, even if they hadn't seen her, they'd be like, they're at the bar, she went to this store,
Yeah.
the police
Yeah.
arrested her, she's at the hospital. They kind of, yeah, they would get phone calls kind of telling them where she was, even if she was missing. So they aren't getting
Makes
any of those
sense.
calls, so they call and report her missing.
Yeah. They knew something was wrong.
Yeah. By this point, they had called local hospitals. Police had not gotten any calls about her, as I kind of just said. This is where it gets really weird. Her last contact with her family was reported to be Wednesday, April 15th, but some sources say it was, would this be Monday, April 13th?
Oh,
One or the
wow.
other. I tend to believe it's the 15th. This is 5 days after leaving her sister's when she called the mom Mildred. No one was home when
Okay.
the call was placed and ended up being sent to voicemail, where Diane was ended up leaving a voicemail for the mother Mildred. So 59-year-old Mildred heard her daughter's voice saying, "Help, help, help, let me out." Uh, which
Oh
this is like
no.
breaks my heart. Um, Mildred said that Diane sounded tense and alarmed, and Mildred recognized her daughter's voice immediately, even though she like wasn't really leaving like a proper voicemail. It was just this.
No. Maybe she had
Um,
just gotten a phone in
yeah,
desperation and was only able to do whatever she could. That's fucking scary.
right.
Yeah.
After this, after Diane spoke, there was a sort of scuffling sound, like someone was trying to pull her phone away from her while she was still
Oh.
talking. And then she says, "Hey, give me that," before the call just disconnects. Like that's it.
Oh
Um,
my God. That's a
of
freaking horror movie plot.
Right? Yeah,
Ugh.
that's what I thought.
That's the last thing
This,
you hear? Oh no.
yeah. This voicemail obviously immediately troubled the family. It seemed that Diane was in serious trouble and obviously in need of help. Mildred did try to call back the number that had left that voicemail. The name
Okay.
Starlight, like Starlight, showed up as the caller ID. Uh, they said
Oh.
at this time it was kind of indicating that that was a business name. Because I don't think at that time caller IDs really showed up for like personal phones, like home
Maybe just the
phones and
number.
stuff.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I can't
But this shows like
remember.
Starlight in like the caller ID. Um,
Weird.
yeah,
What,
so the
like, isn't
mom,
Starlight Room a thing? I feel like that sounds like a business. I just
yeah, I'll get
like a
to it.
club or something. Okay.
So she's calling all these numbers, or all these phone calls go unanswered, and it said like somebody a couple years ago now like researched back then, and it says later investigations revealed that only one business in town with that name, a strip club called Starlight Lounge, that's now known as
Okay.
Teasers.
That makes
That's
sense.
the only one that maybe would have shown up with the caller ID Starlight, but confirmation of this connection like isn't known.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Because yeah, it sounds like a strip
yeah.
club.
going to the same day that this phone call happened, or I believe the phone call happened, April 15th. Some sources say the 13th.
Okay.
But the reason why I think it's the 15th is because if it's the 15th, this would take place on that same day and could be kind of part of what that maybe altercation that was taking place during the voicemail is.
Oh, right. Okay. Could
Yeah.
explain what she was talking about.
Yeah. Because April 15th, the tip, like little tip of a human finger is found along US Route
No.
19 near, yeah,
I thought you meant
near,
a tip like
no,
information. I was not prepared for
no.
that. Sorry.
Yeah. So
Not that
the,
the
like,
tip of a finger really needs a trigger warning. I listened to lots of true crime,
yeah,
but I was just like not prepared for it to be that. That kind of tip.
right?
Okay.
It was
Just the tip.
found along US Route 19 near New York Avenue around 4 p.m. by a woman
What?
that was walking to work who thought it was a toy or a prop. They always do.
Well, it had to have been at
Uh,
least big enough for her to recognize it
yeah.
as something. Like,
Yeah,
because
they
when you
say
say
it's like just
the
above
first
like the knuckle.
knuckle,
So it's like the full fingernail and like everything. So like you'd be able to tell what it is.
that would make
Yeah.
more sense. I wouldn't notice if it was like smaller than a pencil
No.
eraser or just
No,
like
it's
when you slice off just the skin off the end or whatever.
yeah, I think the one says yeah, just above the top knuckle. The one thing
Oof.
says. So basically the fingernail.
Yeah, that
Um
would still fucking hurt.
yeah. So she was walking. She thought it was this toy or a prop. She ends up
Oh.
going to her boyfriend and tells him about it later that day. The next day, he goes and like tries to find it along the side of the highway.
Oh, she didn't
Uh,
pick it up.
no.
I see.
He ends up locating it, figures out it's painted with like a bright red nail polish, and he determines it to be a real finger, not a
Oh
toy
my
or a prop.
god.
And he contacts the Pasco County Sheriff's Office, who arrives on the scene. At this time, they didn't know like whose it was. They attempted to determine whose finger it
Yeah.
was, and because Diane had been arrested in the past, when they ran the fingerprint on the finger, it came up with her file.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Uh, one source said it was possibly her right middle fingertip cut off just above the top knuckle.
Oh,
And
okay.
a few sources said that there was maybe two fingers that were found, but I'm not too sure on that one. So at least one was found. Uh
Right. It's still amazing that something so small would have led them to information. It's crazy.
yeah, right.
It's
Some
not much to
believed
go on. Sorry.
some of the police believed it was accidentally severed, maybe by a car door.
I'm
However,
sorry.
paired
No,
with
that would
this,
crush your finger.
yeah, you'd have to pretty hit it pretty hard for it to actually
Yeah.
sever.
If you slammed your
Um,
finger in a door before you know it doesn't just like take it off usually.
yeah. Obviously, with this finger being found and it being paired with possibly taking place on the same day as this troubling voicemail that was left, this darker cause seems likely. Police end up searching the area where the finger was found, trying to look for more evidence. There was even a helicopter that scanned the area from above. However, no other traces of Diane were found. Uh, Police,
Okay.
along with friends and family, they try and continue searching for Diane. They are checking her favorite hangouts over the next several weeks, probably still following up with like hospitals, but nothing's turning up where she might be. And police told reporters, quote, she apparently did not have a vehicle, so she either hitchhiked or got rides from friends, end quote.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Diane was described as overly trusting when not on her medication, which led
Oh.
investigators to believe that she might have somewhat willingly gone with someone, even if she didn't necessarily know them, saying, quote,
Okay.
when Diane did not take her medication correctly, her personality would change, and during these bouts, she was known to hang out with a pretty rough crowd. End quote. Yeah.
Interesting.
I
So, but
don't
then they
know.
just,
They didn't say
yeah.
anything about who she was like known to be hanging out with.
Right. I'm just interesting how they describe it as trusting. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm like, sometimes I can want to believe the best in everybody, but does that mean
right?
I'm trusting? Or like, because I still have my true crime
Yeah.
brain on in the back, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe she got a little naive when she wasn't on her meds. We don't know. Okay.
Yeah. At this time, Mildred was hoping for the best, but it had been a few weeks, so she had begun preparing for the worst.
Hmm.
She was quoted as saying, quote, "She is in trouble, big trouble." This kind of threw me for a loop because then she says they're probably torturing her. I hope that she's still alive and that they haven't killed her yet, which is kind of something I don't
Oh.
know. I found that a little weird. Like,
It's hard to know how you might phrase something if your child was missing, so I
yeah,
can't really fault her, but I guess she just wants to believe overall that she's still alive. That would be my
yeah,
assumption based on that. But yeah, that's, oh, I don't want to think of my kid being tortured. Like,
right?
that's
Yeah,
almost worse, you know? It's, oh, that's rough. That's tough.
yeah. Um, so another weird thing that happens is a few days later, after like the phone call, April 18th, as the story of Diane Augat's disappearance was spreading through the Tampa area, something was suddenly discovered at a convenience store that Diane regularly went to. Now, this convenience store is not in the city that she disappeared in. It's about 25 miles away in Odessa, Florida, where, like, Odessa is where Diane's house is. So this is like a
Right.
separate city. So this is discovered by convenience store manager Patricia Splendorio.
Oh my
Splendoria.
God.
It's
Fun.
like SBL Splendoria. Uh
Could they be
she
Italian? Ooh, how
yeah.
splendid.
She discovers a bag of neatly folded clothing inside their outdoor freezer.
Oh,
She immediately recognized the clothing.
okay.
Yeah.
So, like,
Um,
they have maybe a deep freeze that's
I have no
located
idea.
outside of there. I have one in my
Something.
garage, but
Yeah.
maybe it's outside of the garage. I don't know what people do in
Yeah,
South
I don't know.
Florida or whatever.
She immediately recognized the clothing in the bag as Diane's, and she reaches out to Diane's sister, Deborah, who then takes a look at the clothing. She also recognizes the clothing, says it's Diane's because she had given her some of it, like specific items in there, like she had bought and given to Diane. So they contact the police and they're like, "We found this." And it's like, again, it's not in the same city, and it's like at least what 8 days from when anybody's seen her.
Okay.
Yeah. Police believed the clothing was put there by the people that had been or sorry, put there by the people Diane had been allowing to stay at her home while she was
Um,
away at her sister's in Tampa.
oh, like
Um
renters.
yeah, like I'd say kind of more squatters. They don't sound great. They were
Okay.
described as juveniles in the papers. The group had been staying at her house. They were throwing these wild parties while Diane was gone.
Oh,
And it said that they later began taking items out of her house without her consent. So maybe they were like selling off her stuff in the house, like while she's trying to get treatment, and then while she's staying with her sister. So not great.
damn. Yeah, but
Um,
I,
yeah.
yeah, if we already knew she was associating with desperate type of people, she
Mm-hmm.
probably should have known better, but that
Yeah.
sucks. I don't.
Uh,
I'm not trying to blame.
and it is impossible, they said, for them to figure out whether the clothes were put in the outdoor or when the clothes were put in the outdoor freezer, as staff said that they hadn't looked inside it in about 3 weeks. And at this time, Diane had been,
Staff.
yeah, the staff at the convenience store where it was found.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was at her house. No, I
No,
got confused for a second. Just in the same city, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Uh, so they said that they hadn't checked this freezer in about 3 weeks, and because Diane had been only missing for 8 days, they didn't know if it was related to her disappearance. Because it could have happened even before her disappearance. They could have just put it there.
I
And then
mean,
it just happened to be
sure,
found after. And then they
but
said
still.
because it was also in a totally different city, 25 miles away. It might not be related
Right.
at all, but it is always mentioned in the case.
Hmm.
So, over the next several weeks, police received dozens of tips from potential witnesses that believed they had seen Diane.
Really? Okay.
On mhm. Just after her disappearance, April 11th, between 3 and 4 p.m., a
Your
witness said
computer
that
screen just shook.
I know, Gordo got up and now he's
I'm
shaking.
sorry. I
Uh,
couldn't hold it in.
between 3 and 4 p.m., she was said to be walking down New York Avenue, which is I think that's a highway. That's where her finger was found.
Oh, right.
And another witness said that they saw her on April 15th, which may have been the day of the phone call, where she was said
Okay.
to be at a Golf Inn where she may have been eating lunch, but none of these sightings were ever really confirmed
Mm,
by
that's
police,
tough.
saying it was actually her or anything.
Okay.
And with no other information or possible sightings to work off of, Diane's disappearance began to fade from the headlines just a few weeks after, and the case really remained stagnant over the next several years, unfortunately.
Damn.
November 2000, Diane's family kind of tried to drum up media attention and tried to get Diane's story back into headlines. They were talking openly about her history with mental illness. They talked about her losing custody of her children, her divorce, and that she had kind of distanced herself from her family. And officials stated that they were continuing to investigate and that this was an ongoing case. They weren't treating it as if it was a cold case yet, but they didn't have anything to work with, I'd say, on a daily basis. So
Yeah.
Diane's family were still fearing the worst. At this point, investigators had interviewed more than 100 people related to her disappearance.
Wow.
Yeah. November 25th, 2000. So this is about 2 years after her, over 2 years from her disappearance. Another strange thing happens. One day, just one day after an article was published about Diane's case in the Tampa Bay Times, another discovery was made at a convenience store that Diane and her family often went to. Uh,
Mm.
Terry Wilson, Diane's brother's girlfriend, walked into a Circle K that was along Highway 19 near a neighborhood that Diane visited often. Inside the convenience store, Terry found a bag of random, I'll say, beauty objects. And on the baggie was the name Diane written on black Sharpie on the bag. And she just finds this on the counter in the convenience store.
On the counter? That's
Yeah,
so weird.
on the lottery ticket counter. So those are typically fairly small, but they're kind of off to the side, maybe a little bit. So
Yeah,
it's
it
not
would.
the main counter, but somebody had
Yeah.
obviously just left it there, within,
Yeah, it would
I'd say,
still
at
get
least an hour.
noticed by the end of
Yeah,
the day. Yeah.
yeah. So Terry believed that the baggie may have something to do with her boyfriend's missing sister. So she took the baggie to his family, who then informed the police. The clear plastic baggie contained items that Diane presumably would have been using at the time of her disappearance. It had black eyeliner, the Taboo perfume, I guess she liked, It
Oh.
had bright pink lipstick and generic brand toothpaste. It was confirmed that this toothpaste was actually the same kind that was issued by the mental health facility that Diane had checked out of just 2 weeks before going missing. And the bag
Oh.
was also similar to the kind that was kept by patients there, like with their name, and it's clear, so like you can't hide anything in the clear baggie, and they wrote their names on
Right.
it. And Diane's family firmly believed that this was hers. Um, this baggie renewed the investigation and investigators because it was suddenly left by somebody randomly over 2 years after Diane's last sighting, which is like really
So
weird.
weird.
Police announced that they would be reviewing the security tape from the store in the hopes of catching who had left it on the counter.
Good.
Unfortunately, nothing is believed to have come from this lead, as the tape had, I read on one thing, possibly already been recorded over
Oh
by the
God.
time they found out. Yeah.
Really?
Um,
God damn
the
it.
only thing this really did was help the belief that Diane, or someone who knew Diane, or someone who knew what happened to Diane, was still kind of in the general area.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, police were never ever able to really confirm if this was her baggie. Just like they couldn't confirm when the clothes were left either.
Jeez, that
Yeah.
sucks. But I would
Um,
imagine there wouldn't be much DNA or
yeah.
fingerprints on it at
Yeah, I
that
have no
time.
idea.
Yeah.
Months after Diane's case was once again in the press, or sorry, months later, Diane's case was once again in the press as another strange true crime case began making headlines. This one kind of brings us off track, but it ties in because
Ready for the
around
detour.
around 4 a.m. Wednesday, June 27th, 2001, a pair of men wearing ski masks, I think like the balaclava type
Sure,
masks.
okay. Yeah, the
Uh
whole face. Yeah, eye
yeah,
holes.
the cliche ones. They barged into the office of Coral Sands Motel in Hudson, Florida, just off US 19. It was
Oh.
described as a cheap motel, often used by those who had nowhere else to go. And these two men barged into the office, located in like a trailer. They were wielding firearms, and hotel manager Rose Casper ended up being hit in the face. Her
Oh, I love
boyfriend
her
and
name. Her?
yeah,
Her name?
right? Yeah,
Rose
Rose
Casper.
Casper.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, that's awesome.
It's a cool name. Her boyfriend and co-manager Gary Evers, who was in the back room, came out front when he heard what was going on, and when he did, the two men basically just like fled.
Oh,
Kind of as soon as they saw him.
of course.
Uh, Rose and Gary, they actually lived in this trailer slash office, um, of the
Oh.
motel, and they believed they knew who the men were. So later that night, because this takes place at, yeah, 4 or 5, around 4 and 5 p.m. or 4
Okay.
a.m., sorry. So it's like a few
Oh.
hours later, like almost 12 hours later. That night, Gary, who is the co owner of the motel, invites 26-year-old Todd Cammers, a man with a history of burglary and criminal acts, invites him to the trailer. Because he believes that Todd is involved. So Gary was mad that Todd may have been the one who repeatedly hit Rosa. No, yeah, Rose. It's supposed to say
Oh, right.
Rose, not
Yes.
Rosa. Uh, so Gary suddenly pulls out a 9mm pistol and asks Todd if he was involved. Yeah, not
Jeez.
great.
Okay.
Uh, Todd's
Going a little vigilante there.
right, 100%. Todd's
Like,
response is
I'm sorry, but were you involved? You got a gun to me. What am I
yeah.
gonna say? Like, probably I'm gonna just say no.
Well, the
Mm.
response is unknown because Gary immediately opened fire and emptied two entire magazines into 26-year-old Todd's body.
Then why even
Okay.
ask? Oh my
Right? Yeah.
god. That's
The next
horrible.
day, June 29th, 52-year-old Gary was now in police custody. He was charged with first-degree murder. Weirdly, he had pretty much no prior criminal history other than pulling a gun on a man in 1999. One source had the details that this was for attempting to, the man had he had pulled the gun on the man for attempting to sleep with a stripper who Evers knew was dating another man at the time. So he was like trying to protect his boy. Like, yeah, I don't know. I'm like,
Okay.
yeah, my buddy's dating a
Like,
stripper, and now this guy's trying to sleep with her. I'm gonna pull a gun on him. I don't know.
but assuming she's at work, isn't that what
I
all
have
of her
no idea.
customers are going to be trying to do?
Right? Yeah.
That's crazy.
Um,
Okay.
it said, but in that case, no charges had been filed, despite police having been called out to the like motel. So nothing ever
Mm-hmm.
came about with that one. In court, it was revealed that Todd actually had nothing to do with the attempted robbery at the motel. He had only accepted Gary's invite to try and clear his own name. And the real perpetrators were Edwin Humphrey and Robert Hay, who at the time were known to have committed a string of similar robberies that same week. Probably like ski
Oh,
masks and guns, and they're just like breaking into small businesses in like
in
small
one.
towns or some shit.
Okay.
I don't know.
It's like, calm down.
Yeah. It said that Humphrey had actually ended up shooting Hay, his co-friend, I don't know. Um
Co-conspirator.
yeah, and I put that I presumed Hay was dead because it didn't really say. It just said that he
Okay.
had shot him in an attempt to try and cover up their involvement in the robberies,
Right.
and that Humphrey was given a life sentence. And I was like, but what about Hay? But I don't know. I assume Hay died. It didn't really say.
Okay.
Um, yeah. But because Gary, the hotel co-manager, ended up shooting and killing poor Todd, who wasn't even involved in the end, Gary was later sentenced to life in prison in April of 2004.
Oh,
In
wow.
another weird coincidence, it was the same day this story was breaking into the press and like getting reported to the press, that
Oh.
Diane's family decides to release a statement to the press, not through the police, but through the press themselves,
Oh.
that Gary Robert Evers, the man who had just been convicted of shooting he was the hotel guy, he had just been convicted of shooting Todd, had been one of the investigators' main suspects in Diane's case 3 years earlier. Which is weird. And now he's just shot a guy like at his motel. Um so this
Okay. Also, do we believe them?
I don't really
Ugh.
know. It said that the motel he co-managed and lived in the office of was one of Diane's last known locations. Like she was known to go there. It was
Okay.
also a short distance away from where she was last seen alive. I think they meant in that like highway area. And it was also close to the location where the baggie was found just 7 months earlier from when the shooting took place.
Okay. So it's all in
Um,
the same area.
Yeah. While investigators did not want to reveal any details about their investigation into Gary
Yeah.
directly, he remains the only publicly named suspect in the case, and any knowledge he may have had about Diane's possible disappearance or even death is lost because unfortunately Gary died in May of 2012 while serving out his life sentence. That was a Gordo snoring. Did you
Damn.
hear? I saw
What?
the Gordo just like
No, I was
secret
too
when I
busy
said that.
worrying about my own throat gurgle noises. I
Just
was
like
like,
what
oh.
is sounds over there? Yeah. Um yeah. So, although her family fears the worst, Diane is considered a missing person, and the case has not ever been considered to be a homicide, though investigators do admit that it is unlikely that she would be found alive after this many years. They do continue to search in hopes of bringing the family some sort of closure. Um,
Okay, because they don't know for sure that there was any
yeah.
foul play or anything.
Yeah. I do have some other stuff because when I was looking it up, one of the people or one of the sources I found had some other stuff that I was thought was kind of interesting. It was from unresolved.me. This was a kind of history of the case written up by a Michael Whalen or Whelan. Uh And he went in saying that there was actually a bunch of women who matched Diane's general description who went missing in the area between 1995 and 2002. Like Diane, they were last seen in bars or restaurants in the Tampa area, and they share a number of similarities. Just gonna run through them because they had like a little bit on them. It was kind of interesting.
Yeah,
There was
that's weird.
37-year-old Kathy A. Struckoff, who was killed in 1995. She had been last seen at a bar in the company of a man that was named John. If that was
Okay.
ever their name, yeah. He was never identified. Then
Never trusted John.
36-year-olds,
Just kidding.
right? 36-year-old Kimberly Langwa Wilson was found dead in a
Oh.
ditch in 1999.
Oh no.
34-year-old Rhonda Ann Brown went missing in 2000. She was last seen walking between her house and a bar when she disappeared. 33-year-old Kathleen Marie Wandahasega
Wow.
disappeared.
It's a
She
long one.
disappeared in 2002. She was last seen walking from her house, possibly on her way to a bar to celebrate her birthday.
Oh, so sad.
She, right? She disappeared and failed to cash a check that was mailed to her a few days later for about $500.
Oh, yeah,
Which,
she
yeah.
did. I
All of
mean,
these women were similar ages, around the same height and weight as Diane, most
oh
also with a
no.
history of alcoholism and substance abuse.
Oh.
All went missing in the same general area over a 7-year period in towns with relatively small populations at the time.
Ugh.
Um,
It's just so
yeah,
easy for something to befall you. I mean, even if you do just drink lightly or whatever or
yeah,
something, like stuff can you can get a little bit inebriated and then you're just that much more vulnerable and
yeah.
oh, it just sucks. It's
Uh,
not fair.
continuing, yeah, continuing from unresolved me. Did have because there was two different kind of like write-ups about like kind of like summaries of what happened. So this first one said that unfortunately there was no activity, or there has been close to no activity in Diane's case in nearly 2 decades, with her
Mm.
disappearance remaining just as unsolved today as it was back in 1998.
Oh, somehow
Yeah,
that one sentence is so harsh, just as
yeah.
unsolved. Like, ugh, the poor
Uh,
people working on it.
yeah. They said 40-year-old Diane Augat was last seen April 1998. She was last known to be staying with her sister along Hudson's Cobblestone Drive, but would reportedly be seen in the surrounding area over the next few days. She had a history of mental illness and substance abuse and was known to be incredibly trusting when not on medication. For that reason, it is believed that she may have willingly been in the company of people that intended to do her harm, and that was made evident by the discovery of one of her fingers just days after she was reported missing. Well, rumors have persisted around sightings of Diane in the Tampa area from time to time. There's been no confirmed sighting of her since the second week of April 1998. If she is still alive, she would be approximately 62 years old and likely
Wow.
still suffering from bipolar disorder, which requires medication in her case
Oh,
to treat.
man.
She is Caucasian. She stood about 5'4" at the time of her disappearance and weighed about 130 pounds. She had dark strawberry blonde hair, which has likely, they said, grayed like with age, her presumably being 62.
You would think.
It did say that there was a $3,000 reward that still exists for information leading to her current whereabouts, and anyone with information is asked to reach out to Crime Stoppers in the Tampa Bay area or submit a tip online. Um,
Aw.
I did want to mention because one of my sources had a little bit more like of her character description of kind of like what she looked like and identifying features. So I just wanted to run through that.
Mhm.
This was from, is it like it's supposed to be international missing. I don't know. It's int-missing.fandom.uk. It's like a
Okay.
subcategory of like Wikipedia. But they said her characteristics were long, wavy, dark blonde hair, blue eyes, her ears are pierced, her fingernails were painted a kind of coral color at the time of her disappearance. She had unspecified tattoos on her back and right shoulder. She had a scar on her abdomen. She's missing her appendix. She had an orthopedic plate. I don't know what that means.
Orthopedic.
Yeah,
Isn't that foot? Like
that's what I thought.
foot?
I don't know,
Okay.
but plate makes me think like your head. So foot head. I don't know.
Right, or like wait.
I have no idea.
What is it called when you go to the orthodontist? Could it have been that kind of plate? Because that was
Oh,
my other thought, that
maybe
it sounds
something in
like
her mouth.
teeth.
Yeah, it must be.
Teeth or
Or
foot? We don't know. No, I'm just
yeah.
kidding. It's
Her
yeah,
right
it's
middle.
always so sad to hear the descriptions though, because you're like, the last thing they were wearing or whatever. You're like, you're only gonna find them still
Yeah.
wearing that if you find them like dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks.
Uh, it has a bit more. Her right middle finger, as I said, it's cut off. This one says just below the knuckle. The other one said like just above. I'm not too sure.
Because they
Uh,
determined that was her fingertip. They're
yeah,
sure.
they had her fingerprint on it, and it matches like
Oh
her past
right.
records, so they know it's hers. And this was
Oh.
severed shortly after her disappearance. Another one of her fingers might also have been cut off, as I kind of said. Some sources said they found two of them, and that one of them was lost or something along the way. I don't know. It was fucking weird.
It could be just rumor. Yeah.
Yeah, she suffered from bipolar disorder. She has a history of drug and alcohol use. This one I also wanted to mention because it said she had a list of aliases that she was known to use.
Oh, okay.
Um, Diana Louise Augat, Ginny L. Augat, Madonna Augat.
Ginny. Sorry.
Yeah, Ginny. Diana Young, Diana Laura Augat, Diana Young Augat,
Oh my
Denise
gosh.
Augat, and Jackie L. This one says Yaugat. It's just combining both of her like maiden and married last name.
Oh, Young and Nugget. Yeah. Okay.
Yaugat. Yeah. Um,
Like those couple names you get, like
yeah.
Benifer.
Yeah. For clothing, it said she was last seen wearing a white tank top, blue shorts, and white sneakers. Yeah. But that's all I have. This one, like, even now looking at the picture, the one that I had seen so many times before is the one that's like in color, it's all blue, the background,
Oh,
kind
I
of her
didn't look at the
standing
pictures.
there.
Okay.
It's number one. It'll be the first one that comes up. Uh, I have seen this picture dozens of times and have no idea because I did not know this case before I started looking it up. I don't know why I would have seen
Really?
this picture so many times, but yeah,
Okay. Oh,
yeah,
sorry, the number one. She's in a jean vest.
yeah, yeah, that's the one. Like, I have
Interesting.
seen this picture so many times before, I don't
Really?
know why, but
I don't think that I
yeah.
have. On
And
a
that was
milk
part of the
carton
reason I
you're in?
clicked into it. And I was like, why? Why do I know this picture? And then none of it's
There's
familiar. Like,
right. Just like
yeah,
in
I
your
don't know.
subconscious from
Yeah,
when you were a kid and your
something.
parents were watching about it or something. Wait,
Oh, probably not.
I was like, is
Because,
that even
like,
the right timeline? Wait, I
no.
totally forgot what you said, if it was 90s or
1998. Yeah.
98. Okay. Oh no, you
Yeah.
you would have been what? One, two?
3.
Okay.
I was 3. But,
Well, it's some of those things that I sometimes I'll be like, "Oh, I've heard about that," but it kind of happened before your time and you're like, "Well, I guess I just heard about it from
mm-hmm.
my family talking about it or from the news or
Yeah.
whatever." Yeah, popular
But
culture.
yeah, this one has so much going on, like her going missing, then a weird voicemail, then her fingertip, then the clothing, then that baggie. Like, what is going on? There's something. Like,
Yeah. Someone's
it's
I would like to think it was her, maybe trying to fake her own disappearance, but somebody knows something
Yeah.
and is trying to misdirect or cover it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of the ones I think definitely would want to follow up on, and I really
Yeah.
do hope they find out what happened, because yeah, this one really kind of like broke my heart, like the voicemail, and it's just so sad. Like she's asking for help and then saying like, "Hey, give me that," and then like the call gets disconnected and her fingertip. Like some
Yeah.
people just disappear and you find nothing, but her like, and then almost 2.5 years later, the weird baggie like on the counter at the lottery station. Like they know it's
Oh, I
gonna
know.
be
What a
found within a
horrible
few minutes.
tease. Yeah, her poor
Like,
parents and stuff must have just been like,
yeah,
you think you're gonna find something and then nothing again. Or it's just someone taunting
yeah,
you. Yeah, the
yeah.
ones
I
that
don't
have
know what's
several
going on.
clues sometimes can be just so
Yeah,
frustrating and intriguing. And you're like, is it something more sinister? Is it something more simple? Like, no way to know.
yeah, yeah. I really hope they can get closure on this one and figure out what happened, because it just,
Do you have
yeah, I don't
theories?
know.
Like, I'm just trying to formulate, but I'm like,
I
if
definitely
someone,
think like because they say she was so trusting, even the police say she was so
yeah,
trusting and she wasn't hanging out with the best of people. I feel like she maybe got in somebody's car because she was just like walking, and whether she knew them or not, and then
okay,
it kind of went sideways and
sure,
like something happened that way, but that's
could be.
like
Maybe
all I
someone
really
picked her up
have.
and, yeah, thought they could
Yeah.
do something, but then
Or
got
she
more
was
than they
like
bargained
hitchhiking
for,
or
or,
something,
yeah,
and yeah,
they
I'm not
accidentally
too
killed
sure.
her.
Yeah,
Ugh, scary.
something.
Very
Yeah.
scary.
That's why I'm like, this episode's gonna be so sad, because this one, yeah, this one really got me when I was typing it up. I was like, what? Like, kind of read the overview and I was like, they found like so many weird things. Like, any of those would be weird to
Yeah.
find in any case. And it was like, in all of them or in one.
Well, the more
Like, it's
clues you
so
find, you
strange.
would think you could, like, why are there all these clues if you can't add it up to
Yeah.
something, if you can't use it to crack the case? Like,
Yeah,
it's almost like
exactly.
someone wants you to crack it, you know? Like they're just leaving little
Yeah.
breadcrumbs or something. Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that's bizarre. That's probably gonna stick with me. Like, what the fuck?
yeah, right? Yeah,
Like,
so
once,
weird.
like, I love hate those kind of stories, and I'm sure, and I hate to say that because it's just like, I know anyone who's a parent of someone who's disappeared, missing,
Yeah.
like, you don't just get to be like, oh, that sucks because this case isn't all wrapped up. It's like, that's your life. Like, you just don't have any
Mm-hmm.
answers. But yeah, they're
Yeah.
like, they're fascinating and sad and
Yeah.
intriguing all at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I find them that way. But
Yeah.
we
I'm
will.
glad we don't do only disappeared cases though.
Right? If I had to do this every week, I would be a different type of person.
Well, I just was listening to the one on our network today that's called And Then They Were Gone. And
Oh,
so I think that's mostly what they do is disappearance cases, right? So
jeez.
I'm
Yeah, that
just
would
like,
break my
ooh.
heart too often.
Yeah, they're like I said, they fascinate me, but it's tough. I don't know if I could, yeah, to cover them every week. Ooh, that'd be tough.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
we will take a break and we'll come back for another disappearance that
After
we would
these
like to
messages.
cover.
Hello, I'm Kona Gallagher.
And I'm Ethan Flick.
We're the husband and wife team behind the true crime podcast, And Then They Were Gone.
We're a weekly show that covers unsolved missing persons cases. These are cases that you, the listener, can have an impact on.
Some of the people you may have heard of, like Kristen Smart or Braceless Pisa. But we also bring you missing people of color and other cases that haven't gotten the mainstream attention that they deserve. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, or your favorite podcast app.
Where's Gordo?
Laying beside me, but we had a brief interlude of him deciding randomly he wanted to try chewing on the cord for the mic and for my laptop, and then the headphone cord, and then was mad when I was taking
No.
it away. He did little grabby hands, and then he started trying to bite me, and now he's calmed down, I think, again. But his tail is still like flick, 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 like annoyed.
Oh my God.
He's like, she won't let me eat the cords.
That literally reminds me of a weird cartoon short, and if I can find it, I will send it to you, because the cat chews on the cord, and then it screams like a man, like, oh, when it electrocutes it. And that's not the weirdest part of the video, because this couple are playing Scrabble, and she takes her eyes out, and she shakes them around. He goes, you're shaking your eyes here, and you're shaking your eyes there. Why don't you go join some chicken rock and roll band? We watched it a lot. I don't know why.
That's so weird.
It had like the cat came back and other weird shorts on it, but like that was one of the weirdest ones.
Weird. It's creepy.
I tell ya.
Now Gordo's just laying up. He's got little bunny arms.
Oh yes. That does, yes. Like when what that one author does describe cats like that a lot, where the shadow hunter Clarissa, or whatever her name is, Claire, she's like, and then the cat lay there like a dead bug, or you're like,
yeah, that's a good description too. I call it bunny arms, and then go boing boing boing.
Yeah.
Sometimes he does it, and then he'll like start hopping. He'll like kind of do the back arch, and they like kind of jump like that, and I'm like, what are you, a bunny? Like, he's not doing that. He's galloping around the house like a horse. Just...
Oh my God. I love a good gallop. It's like, okay, zoomy time.
Yeah, because he's got such heavy, like, he's got some weight, so it's like, pom, 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 pom.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Yeah, you. Talking about you.
Heavy boy. I gotta burp. Oh, pardon me. Not as heavy as my boy.
Yeah.
He weighs as much as my kid.
Gosh. Yeah. You got a big dog, and I got a big old cat.
Yeah. A rag doll. I was trying to think. I was like, she always tells me what the kind is. And I was thinking to myself the other day, and I always forget the exact name.
Yeah, he's part rag doll.
It might have been because they're always looking for Fur Baby Friday pets on Live Laugh Larceny. I may have tagged you in that and be like, yes,
yeah,
we have a Gordo.
I think I might have seen that. Yeah.
Well, because I know, like, yeah, if I don't tag you, you're not going to see it on our Instagram necessarily.
Yeah. I've taken a few pictures lately. He's decided he wants to sit like a person on the couch when he's sleeping, and it was very cute. He's kind of sitting, I don't know, you know, when they're sitting and their stomach's kind of like squished out and they're like sitting up, kind of, but he was like asleep, and his head was like kind of going like this, and all of a sudden he just kind of like curled and like fell onto his side on the couch and then like snuggled in.
And they sit like a bear sits with their fat tummy out and just kind of well, I guess like
that, and he
sits too. But,
he was like dead asleep, and then he just kind of like goes to his side and then like curls up even cuter. And I was like, if I had caught that on video, that whole thing was so cute, because he's just like for like 10 minutes. Like, you look so funny right now. Yeah.
They get so cute. It's cute, especially the hyper ones. Pets and or children, because my kid never napped, so like to see her asleep, I'm like but anyway,
yeah.
All right, well, I have one that you could go to the original Unsolved Mysteries and just watch an episode there too if you want.
Okay.
I haven't seen the Unsolved Mysteries episode.
Okay. Is that the one that used to air on TV that they did like back in the 80s and 90s?
And then there's like a new season on Netflix and stuff.
I've watched the
This
new
one,
seasons.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay. Cool.
Yeah, yeah, this one would have been featured on like the original.
Nice.
But strangely enough, as I was researching it, I'm ashamed to admit, still like 2 days ago, I was still just working on it and typing it up, and literally just typed up the last of it today, of course. But
yeah.
Pat put on YouTube on the big TV, like whatever. I'm just like doing my thing, and he's gonna put on whatever, and we're not discussing it. And then he puts on Mr. Ballin on YouTube, and I was like, oh yeah, I watched one of his videos earlier today. I said I saw the title of this one, but I didn't click on it because I was like, it was called like This Place Will Drive You Mad. And I was like, ooh, dramatic. Sometimes you have dramatic titles that don't, always pan out to be as dramatic as they might sound, of course.
Yeah.
So I had ignored that one. And then he puts it on. And I was like, I think this is about the case that I'm researching, like, right the fuck now.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, he just covered it. Anyway.
Wow.
Shout out to Mr. Ballin. Yes, Mr. Ballen or whatever. Oh, I don't. Not that he needs our shout out. His thing is he's like, I just exploded on TikTok, and I'm like, you're a really good storyteller. I mean, but yeah, good. I'm glad for people. Really, I am. But yeah, he just featured it. It's so funny.
Yeah, it's strange how that happens sometimes. I'll be looking up a case, and then it'll be like, oh, this person just covered that, or 2 weeks after you cover something. Even some of the cases you've done pretty close after it'll be a Bailey Sarian video or something, and I'm like, what the fuck? It's so
you have no
weird.
idea. I think it's even more so because I listen to so many podcasts at work and stuff that I'll be like, oh yeah, this is a known case in the podcast community. Listening to something. Anyway, yeah, I know. I think hopefully I don't sound like I freaking think I know everything, because I don't. This one's unsolved, of course.
Okay.
Yes. I had this one. I was looking up cases to cover, and then looking at a short list and writing down names, and then the name struck out as familiar, and I was like, I think I had heard this covered once, and I realized I have, and it was on Drinking the Kool-Aid pod. So I have shouted them out once or twice, because sometimes they do really good mystery ones that just seem to stick with me. So yeah, credit where credit's due. Although not that they're ever going to listen to my stupid little pod, but no, they're not that big. They've been on with pods we've done promos with and stuff. I shouldn't say that, but I don't know what I was going to say. No, it doesn't. Okay, so this one is about a man named Keith Reinhard.
Okay. Doesn't ring any bells, but I'm terrible with names. So sometimes I remember cases, but I don't know who they were.
I could be terrible with the pronunciation. I didn't. Yeah, the only thing I ended up listening to was the Mr. Ballin by accident.
Okay.
Also, side note, we hate in my house how Americans sometimes just say on accident. And I'm like, I don't know where it comes from, but maybe it's just a bastardization of people saying it's an accident. As in, you had an accident. And then maybe people just started saying on accident. But it's very grammatically incorrect. Why, Americans? Why?
You know what? I was actually thinking about this because we did talk about it before. And the
probably
only thing I could think of was, we say by accident, but then you say on purpose.
On purpose,
is the opposite of
on purpose,
doing something by accident. So if you say you do it by accident and on purpose, maybe Americans think the opposite of on purpose is on accident. Because you wouldn't say
accidentally. Maybe we should all just say accidentally.
Because you wouldn't say like by purpose. Like that's not a
I would hope
saying.
not.
But that's the only thing I could think of is because you say like I did
Mhm.
it on purpose, and then they say on
Right.
accident because it's like the opposite. That's what I came up with. That was my
I mean, clearly we
without
speak
Googling
American.
like why Americans, why?
No. I've heard other podcasters say, yeah, I speak American. And then the other one was like, wait, you speak American? They're like, okay, yeah, it is different than English though. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. It's colloquial English or whatever. Every region you go to, it's gonna sound a
It's
little
not the
different.
Queen's English.
The Queen's, that's right.
Or the King's English now. As it were. 'Twas
And then we
and
didn't watch the King's
henceforth
speech.
and therefore shall. I'm like,
Shall I?
henceforth and therefore
Shan't.
shall. Shan't. Thou'st. I read online recently, somebody was like, let's bring back thou'st. It's like, why?
Oh my god. The
And
ones that end
henceforth.
in ST. Wouldn't thou it? Yeah.
Whatever, Shakespeare?
Sometimes. The one guy we make a little bit of fun of at my house that plays the D&D on the critical role because he's very like, I'm dramatic. So of course they pick him for any ads where he has to like hold the skull and do the whole Hamlet thing because he's that kind of actor. Oh my god, I'm sorry. We're gonna cut this and put it on our special Patreon.
No. Thou shall not.
I decree, says Lady Alanna.
Yeah. She is a lady. I am but a peasant in your presence.
Okay.
Having too much fun. I'm almost crying.
I know.
All right.
We have fun here. Oh yeah. So you're gonna laugh if some of this sounds like it's from an Unsolved Mysteries episode, because I got some of it from the Unsolved Mysteries
Oh, perfect.
wiki or whatever.
Yeah, I've used them. Yeah.
I didn't think they were gonna have a lot of info, but then they kind of did. So I was like, oh.
Yeah. It's pretty good.
Well, to be fair, I think maybe I was comparing it to something like the Criminal Minds wiki has come up before searching a true crime case, but they like loosely based.
Yeah, you don't want to use that for anything accurate.
I don't think so.
But quite a few of their episodes, I'll be like watching it, I'll be like, oh yeah, that's that case. And I'm like,
oh, okay.
Like, I know that case, and then I'm watching like basically a dramatized version of it kind of like play out, and they have like different characters involved, and you're like, but no, like the gist of this case is like, yeah.
Yes, that sounds like me listening to a podcast and being like, oh yeah, I've heard this one before.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, Keith Reinhard, just as a refresher.
Yes, thank you.
I have the description as per the Unsolved Mysteries. He's 6'2", 210 pounds, Caucasian male, gray hair, blue eyes, last seen wearing blue jeans and flannel t-shirt. And I couldn't not hear all of it in the narrator's voice for Unsolved Mysteries.
I've only seen a few of their episodes, so he doesn't stand out. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, the only famous ones I can think of now is how they sometimes talk about the History Channel guy and he narrates all the ancient aliens.
Yeah.
So he grew up in like Chicago area. Apparently he was in a suburb called Algonquin, and I was like, ooh, I know that name. That's
I've heard.
I feel like it's an East Native tribe because there's an Algonquin motel in St. Andrews, New Brunswick. Yeah, so
I think so.
they're on the East Coast. Because he was in Chicago, and he worked as a sports reporter for like 23 years at the Chicago Daily Herald.
Nice.
Yeah. Like, he's your Ray Romano for anyone that watched Everybody Loves Raymond, as I did once I was basically married with children, I guess I should say. You know. I was like, now I get this show a little bit, except for the overbearing mother-in-law part, because Pat doesn't really talk to his mom, but that's
Yeah.
fine. You know, honestly, that's fine.
Yeah. I never watched Everybody Loves Raymond, so
I think it's one of those ones like I didn't find funny until I, you know, been married with a child, or you know what I mean, like had those
yeah.
kind of some of those kind of situational humor that you're really gonna relate to, kind of thing. But I don't know. Anywho's it. Keith was married and had 3 adult children named Sven, Kai, and Tiffany. So this took me a
Like
little
those
while to
names.
figure out. I do
Yeah.
too. But for some reason I got confused when I heard about a son that was named Sven, and then I heard that his other son named Kai said something, and then I thought that maybe they didn't know what the son's name was, and it just didn't occur to me that he had 2 sons because it was from 2
Oh,
different articles. And I was like,
yeah.
"Oh." Like, I'm just really dumb, I guess. No, it was a little confusing.
Yeah.
I literally wrote at one point like he had 2 kids, and I was like, "No, that's not true." But yeah, he apparently had 3 kids that he was close to. And I did like the Unsolved Mysteries description. I could hear it in the narrator's voice, you know, just all serious. Like, for 23 years, Keith Reinhard worked as a sports reporter for a suburban Chicago newspaper. In 1988, at the age of 48, he grew long hair and a beard. In June, he began a 3-month sabbatical in Silver Plume, Colorado, a small town with a population of 130. Side note, 204 as of 2021.
Oh God, that's so small. Sorry. I thought you were gonna follow it up with 1,000 or something.
Nope.
Jesus. Okay. It's like
No, I
everybody's
added
your
that because I
cousin.
was like, what is it now? And that's not part of the quote.
Fuck. Okay.
Yeah, they like, we'll get to it, but it's basically a ghost town.
Yeah, it's real small.
Sorry. Yes. It seems to be. In June, sorry, I probably said that. In June, he began a 3-month sabbatical in Silver Plume, Colorado. Yes, a small town with a population of 130. It is, or that was as of that time. Mine was around the same as yours. Okay, yeah, I said 1988.
80s.
How could I forget
okay.
the year of my birth? But yeah, nowadays it's still not that much bigger.
Yeah.
And they said it is located in the steep, majestic Colorado Rockies.
Lovely.
Lovely. We know the Rockies. We know her. His goals were to get in shape by mountain climbing and perhaps even overcome his fear of heights, and begin writing that novel that he always wanted to, I guess.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
I mean, yeah, he's like, what am I doing with my life? Maybe I don't want to do this anymore. I can totally see it, especially after these last few years with the pandemic and people
Yeah, I
just
was
being
just
like,
gonna say, that's what I did. I was like, what am I doing with my life? I'm not happy here. Quit.
life
Take
is too
time.
short to not be happy.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that much.
Totally different job where I don't make as much, but you know what? It's enough because I have more time and energy to like focus on the things I actually would
Oh
like
yeah.
effort into than being like so like mentally exhausted. You just want to like go to sleep and you come home from work and then wake up and go to work the next day.
I feel the same, just having gone from the Department of
Yeah.
Travel to a different department of
Yeah.
registries. Because that one, planning people's trips, it's their livelihood, it's their,
Yeah.
cash
You're talking
flow,
about
that's their
thousands
extra
of
money.
dollars and
Oh
like
yeah, they don't spend that kind of
everything.
money on things other than
Yeah.
like vehicles. Well, which would you would understand from insurance and
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, so I can feel that. Just like being like, okay, I need a like break from this, and just kind of deciding
Oh my
that
god.
you need to take a look. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how I could have done a podcast if I was still doing travel, because it just like was
I wouldn't have
so
insurance,
draining.
like, yeah.
So yeah, and that's why I get it when other people still in travel or like doing it just jobs that take the fuck all out of you, and I'm like, I'm glad I don't do something that's like that anymore necessarily.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, still a job, a little more
Yeah.
chill.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Um. So they said that what did I say? His goals were to get in shape by mountain climbing, overcome his fear of heights, and begin writing a novel.
Yeah.
Okay. During his sabbatical, he wanted to try running an antique store geared towards summer tourists. End quote.
Cute. Love it. So
Oh,
cute.
it is. It seems like goals.
Yeah.
Hashtag. Apparently, his wife Carolyn, he has a wife named Carolyn, she was not overly fond of this idea. But to be fair, it's because he wanted to go first without her and check it out. So
Oh,
I
okay.
could see why she would be apprehensive.
So he's
just to
gonna be
not
gone for
be
a
with
couple
him.
months, maybe.
Yeah, everything
Yeah.
I read said that for his actual job, he put in a leave like 3 months, like that he was going to come back. Yeah, within
Oh, okay.
12 months, kind of at the latest. So, but yeah, I totally understood her apprehension. Apparently, Keith was sick and tired of city life. He just wanted to go slower. He was, almost turning 50 and all this stuff. This kind of had something to do with it in his mind too. He had a childhood best friend named Ted who lived in Silver Plume, Colorado.
Oh, okay. So that's presumably why he chose to go there. Okay.
This
Not
random
just
place.
random place. 150 people. And just like, he wants to go slower. And I was like, yeah, the slowest you could go.
Wait, why doesn't he move to that place that's like constantly on fire in the States? Oh, no, he doesn't want to go there? Oh, okay. Like from that mine fire or whatever it was they accidentally did. Oops, we'll just blow up our garbage, and then oops, this mine fire is just now never ending, and this place is called hell. I think it's Centralia, Illinois, but don't quote me. I'll have to double check.
I heard about that. And I didn't remember where it was, but yeah.
I literally think I get confused about the name of that place and just where podcasters are from, or like, did they mention that because they were talking about it because they were from that place?
Oh, jeez.
Geography is hard. I try. Okay, so yes, Keith was tired of the city life. His childhood friend, yes, I said that, he owned a cafe in the area. And actually this town, this very small town, Silver Plume, obviously I wondered about the name. As it turns out, it was founded in 1864 and was originally meant to be a gold camp, but then they found a lot of silver ore instead.
Silver plumes of silver.
Silver and gold. Silver, no gold. No. And apparently when the, quote, devastating economic depression hit the U.S., the government switched from a silver gold standard to an all gold one, which sent the value of silver plummeting and ruined Silver Plume. Silver plummet.
Okay.
No. Yes. So now they rely heavily on tourism, and the town is now often referred to as a semi-ghost town or a living ghost town.
Okay. Didn't know that was a thing. It's interesting.
Me neither. Makes sense though when you hear how many people live there.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, so there's no social services, I guess.
Yeah. It's probably no
Yeah.
Walmart.
You're right.
Probably
mean,
Starbucks. Or,
I never had to
as
drive
we'd
to
say,
get to a
Tim Hortons.
Walmart. I complained that I grew up in a small town, but it was still a capital city. We still had like McDonald's. We just didn't have a lot.
Yeah.
Like Pat was from like such a small town in BC that he like I thought they had to like drive to get to other places. I can't remember now.
Yeah.
Imagine.
The city my best friend lives in, she is in a small place in Ontario, and you have to drive,
Oh
I think
yeah.
she said like 3 hours if you want to go see a movie in a movie theater. And I'm like, no.
No.
I'm like,
Northern
no.
Ontario, maybe? It must be, because Southern Ontario is where like Toronto and
Yeah,
like
no.
Ottawa and Kingston and all
It's
that
like
is.
kind of northwest. It's like,
Oh my gosh, okay.
yeah.
Wow.
It's just like, what the heck? I was like,
I
no
can't live like
thanks.
this.
Yeah.
I
You have to
need
go
modern
across
technology.
like the town highway to get to the Walmart or the Tim Hortons. I was like, no.
No,
Brutal.
I've never quite had that, but we have like New Brunswick, even though I mostly grew up in the capital of Fredericton, like it's still a small city compared to here. Edmonton here is like
Yeah.
3 times the size. So I don't know, I just feel like we had to go to Moncton if we wanted to get any of the other fast food chains that we didn't have. Like
Yeah.
what the fuck? Burger King? I don't know, the weird ones. And then like it's like, oh my god. Other people aren't so deprived. I'm just kidding.
You're right.
How deprived are we, us privileged white bitches? All right, yes, it's a living ghost town. So fun. And also a darkly fun fact that I first heard about on the when it came up on the Mr. Ballin YouTube episode was that in the history of the town, a man named Clifford Griffin was the co-owner of the 730 mine. Kind of sounds like 739. But so like obviously it had some money or shares in the mining operation, and he killed himself on top of the Silver Plume Mountain.
Ooh, shit.
Yeah, it's a little dark. A little bit of a dark
Yeah.
history, a creepy detail. He apparently, yeah, even creepier, went up, dug his grave, played himself out on his own violin, and then shot himself so that he fell into the grave.
Holy crap. Okay, never
Is
heard
that
that
not
one
like the
before.
best legend? I'm like, is that true?
Holy
But
shit.
there's like
Yeah,
this
wow.
little monument. There should be a picture. So the picture of the monument came up in the research, and then other pictures showed to me that it seems to be on the edge of a cliff, which makes it even more dramatic. But yeah,
Weird.
there's a picture, like almost like an outline of this Clifford guy like sitting on a cliff. And then now there's this little monument now where apparently he killed himself. It's like, okay.
Oh, I see it. Yeah. Yeah, that's a steep cliff.
Yeah, the first couple pictures of the monument, I didn't realize it was right on the edge of the cliff. But then there's pictures that are supposed to be of
Yeah.
him, I guess, where he looks to be sitting on a cliff. So I'm like, oh, okay, I guess
Huh.
I should have. Anyway, it's a little bit of a creepy history, I guess. And then the story is just, yeah, very mysterious the whole way through. So, okay, so Keith wants to move to the town of Silver Plume, and his friend Ted is living there. His childhood friend that grew up across the street from him. Like,
Nice.
I mean, who do you trust more than someone you grew up with across the street from you? Like, I don't know, because I had that best friend.
Yeah.
I'm like, I would still trust you with my life. Ted, his friend, said that Keith had been both excited and apprehensive about turning 50, but like, sure, why not? We all get
Yeah.
older.
Right?
Exactly. His son Sven, who incidentally was the only son I thought he had for quite some time. Sorry. Said that he seemed to want to do the things he really enjoyed in life before he got too much older and really couldn't do them, whether he, lost his mobility or whatever. So, and the antique store that Keith either took over or started, because I don't think there were any stores there. He just,
Yeah.
it was a bookstore, and then we'll get to it, but it was a bookstore. Now it's an antique store. It sat on Main Street across from Ted's Cafe. And just like when they were kids, when his friend was across the street, Keith's store was over across the street and in a big building that at one point had housed a bookstore. And there's a picture of it in the drive because it's a building that looks like it could maybe hold 2 small stores. Like a very, when I looked at it, seems old Western storefront.
Very Western. God.
Little house on the prairie.
Yep.
This is your store here. And with the wooden
it's
boards.
So cute. I love it.
The wooden sidewalk. It has not been updated. It's not going to have an Apple store in there. Yeah.
Yeah. You can.
Yeah, it's a small building. But it could probably hold 2 stores.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, even it looks like it could have a false front. Yeah, it does look very old, right?
Yeah, so cute.
So yeah, the man that had rented out the space there earlier had a bookstore. Like Keith, they had both kind of moved to the town just to relocate to get away from it all for a bit. And Keith found that they had other similarities that he was drawn to. It's one thing said that their birth dates were 1 day apart. And I love birthdays, but for the life of me, I could not verify when Tom's birthday was. There's just not a lot. Yeah, I could find about him. So I'll take that with a grain of salt, I guess. I did find out that Tom was apparently a former high school art teacher and retired U.S. Army Special Forces veteran.
Wow. Okay.
Wow. Yeah. I kind of loved that. I was like, people can be very too much, two different things. Because,
totally different art school teacher, Special Forces.
Yeah, it's the so-called left brain, right brain, whatever. Yeah, totally. And Pat, my partner, obviously was in the Army, and then when I met him, I was like, okay, you're like a DJ, but it's also oh, but you're in the Army. Okay, so you're artistic, but you're also good at math? All right. Yeah, yeah, it's very interesting. Sorry. Yeah, former high school art teacher. So Tom had been living there in Silver Plume with his dog, Gus, a black Labrador. There's a picture of Tom and Gus, I think, on the drive.
Okay. I thought he was just standing weird, but in the one picture, I think his dog is at the bookstore. The dog's in front of him.
I believe so, yes.
Okay. I thought it was just his pants, and then his arms went weird. I was like, oh, is that a dog? Kind of jumping up at him? It is.
What is he doing?
Yeah, it's so weird. Okay, yeah, cute.
I do have an uncle that went by Gus for a while, but now he goes by AJ. But that's just because his full name is Augustus James. So I was like, oh, yes. Gus. And also he often has big dogs, like this dog, Gus. And Tom and Gus, they were inseparable. They played fetch all the time. Many of the townsfolk observed them playing fetch, and they noticed that instead of throwing a ball, Tom would throw a severed doll's head.
Okay.
Don't know why.
That's different.
It's just it's a creepy detail that stuck with me.
Yeah.
And I believe that the bookstore that he owned was called Charing Cross. like the British tube station. And I thought that I maybe read that wrong, but then there was a picture that looked like it had the British tube station sign.
Yeah.
So I was like, maybe not. All I
Huh.
know is that, I don't know if I told my mom yet, but she took us to London when I was like 16, so like fucking 20 years ago now. And like I got a little keychain that said the mind the gap, which is what they say
Aw.
when it's like
Yeah.
the recording so you don't fall into the subway. Mind the gap, please, mind the gap. And I like lost my little keychain that said that. I don't know. I ended up with, I think because Pat gave me a carabiner because I had a few different car keys and whatnot, and then we attached it to the other keys. But then somehow
Yeah.
those two keys got separated, and I thought, oh no, maybe I lost it in my parking lot at work, but I never did find it. So
Aw.
technically, I lost the keychain that said mind the gap and my house keys, and that kind of sucked because I still have to replace them.
Oh, yeah.
But my car keys stayed, so that was good. Honestly, that could have been worse.
Yeah, that's
Anyway,
really expensive. It's like
I've
can be a,
heard.
if it's like any of the keyless entry ones, it could be like hundreds of dollars to replace, or house keys,
No,
it could be
mine.
like $8
Right.
or whatever. Yeah.
That's what Pat has, yeah. And I did drive his car today with the boop, boop, remote start. But yeah, mine has a key. But yeah, it's like, whew, I do not want to lose
Yeah.
that shit. Okay, sorry. Tom was generally pretty shy and he kept mostly to himself, but he was also very well liked, even in his new town in Silver Plume, Colorado. And one day on September 7th, 1987, he closed up shop for the day and left with his dog Gus. Um, he went for a hike and he just never returned.
Yeah.
At first, concerns were just not raised because it was well known that he had been planning on heading on kind of a Euro tour, a little, trip to Europe or whatever for a few weeks, as one does when we live in America.
Yeah. Backpacking.
I mean, Europe is cool. Yeah. And Keith, once he found about the disappearance of Tom, especially because they'd occupied the same retail space, he was really very intrigued by this mystery. And some might say he became quite obsessed.
Okay.
For one thing, like yeah, he was looking for a plot for his latest novel, and some say he had writer's block when he first got to Silver Plume, but now they are like, okay, he's like, I know what I'm gonna write
Oh,
about.
okay.
It's disappearance. It's the story.
Yeah, okay.
So he made this character, his main character, he called Guy Gypsum, and he was a mashup of himself and Tom. I called it the middle-aged, newly minted mountain man. A mashup of him and Tom.
Yeah.
Apparently Keith's daughter Tiffany said that he was totally immersed in the story and almost living it. So
Oh, okay.
he's
So
a
he's kind of,
Christian Bale getting into the role. I don't
yeah.
know. Oh,
He's
so
method writing.
yeah, exactly. That's the word. I think very much so. And by July of 1988, so specifically July 31st, 1988, after it's been 10 months since Tom's been missing, they finally found a shred of evidence. These two hunters were exploring on, get this, Republican Mountain.
Ugh, boo.
No, we don't like to get political, but it's a funny name. And this is apparently only a mile and a half outside of Silver Plume, so it's very close.
Yeah.
And they did find skeletal remains of a human and a dog.
Aw.
Yeah, so I believe there's a picture even of the hikers, but there's actually a picture available of the skeletal remains. So I put it on the drive, but it's yeah. I mean, I don't know if I'm gonna put it on our social media. bones can be a little rough.
Oh,
They
okay.
hike.
I think I see it. Yeah.
They're very recognizably bones of a human next
Yeah.
to a
Aw,
canine, I
his
think.
dog. Their
Yeah.
little their heads are so close together.
They looked very
Aw.
close together.
Yeah. Aw.
Which, and a lot of people said he just loved his dog. So
Yeah.
when theories of suicide and stuff come up for him, I'm just like, I don't believe it. But that's
Yeah, that seems a little weird if he just said he's gonna go like hiking around or backpacking around Europe
yeah.
and stuff.
Yes, he said
That's
he
a
had
little
planned a
weird.
trip, although no one could find. I know nothing said they could find like plane tickets that had been bought, but I was also like, well, considering the time it was, like you didn't necessarily have to have a specific ticket bought for where you wanted to go when at that time in the
Ah,
80s,
you could show up
90s.
to the airport and pay and
Yeah.
get your ticket at the airport. Yeah.
Yeah, you could just be like, I want to fly here when, and they would like barely even look at your bags or whatever, Yeah, it was different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks. And strangely, okay, so there was an old decrepit revolver that lay nearby them. There is a picture of the revolver that looks like it was falling
Yeah.
apart.
I
And
saw it, and you can see it in the skeleton too. That picture too. It
oh,
is
because it's
almost.
close enough to the
It's yeah. It's
skeletons.
like basically sitting like on his chest. Like I can
Okay.
see it in the
It
picture. It is like sitting right on his chest.
and the funny
But
thing is, like, it was found to be registered to him. It
okay.
seems he had bought it 4 days before this, or
Mm,
before he went missing, I guess I should say, because
yeah.
this is when he was found. But which was weird, right?
Yeah, that's a little strange.
But also, and I'm probably have it later, but I'm pretty sure they didn't match the bullet that was in his skull to his own revolver. So it's still
Oh, okay.
considered like unsolved, I think. Yeah, this one's
Hmm.
very mysterious, which is why when you're jotting down lists of things when you're trying to, there's a list. Oh, here's some disappearances, and they have like a
Yeah.
listicle. They have like a paragraph or two max on each one. You're like, okay, I'm trying to decide which one might be good enough for like at least a 4 or 5 page story. And then like I was like, oh, I think I've heard this one, and oh yeah, I like ones that have just mysterious, kind of almost cryptic details, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, and this one is a little weird. So, lost connection, reconnected. Sorry, I
Yeah.
saw Zencaster say something, so it's just like, don't even.
Yeah. It seems fine. It
Yeah,
didn't.
yeah. It just said lost connection for a second, but then it said reconnected, so I think we're good.
Okay.
Um, the revolver lay nearby. Sadly, the coroner's office and the Clear Creek County Sheriff's Department, that's a mouthful, they declared it a suicide, so that was ruled
Mm-hmm.
a suicide on, I think, unfortunately, because I don't know, that seems a little too easy. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's lack of evidence, though, I suppose. Keith attended a small memorial that was held for Tom, like not only because it was such a small, kind of tight knit community, but because at this point he felt like he knew Tom in a way. So it said, from a quote, on August 3rd, Keith attended a memorial service for Tom Young. Just before the service, he spoke to an old friend back in Chicago on the phone about his chances of becoming the new Bulls writer at his old paper. Despite the promotion of a former colleague who he intensely disliked,
Hmm.
it seems Keith was considering returning back to his old job. I mean, that to me wasn't unlikely because everything I read said that he was on like a 3-month sabbatical from his job. It wasn't like he quit
Yeah.
for good. Yeah. Um, so it said 1 week later, Keith closed up shop on August 7th, 1988. There it is again. And set out around 2:30 p.m. After telling several residents that he planned to summit the Pendleton Mountain, he took off. Many thought that he was just joking because, like, he kind of had that fear of heights, and although he did
Yeah.
hike, it
Yeah,
just
he
seemed out of character for
said
him, I
he
guess.
wanted to hike. So,
Yeah, I'm not too sure. It seemed like people thought he was kidding, and they said that Ted, his friend that owned the cafe, said he came to him just before he set out. And Ted was like, I definitely thought he was kidding because he was just like, I'm going out on the mountain, and if I don't come back soon, just call in the rescue. And then he said goodbye and he left. But
okay.
yeah, I
Weird.
guess his friend was like, what? Like, you don't go hike?
Yeah, probably. I don't think anybody should ever really hike by themselves.
You know, I'm sure looking back, I bet people that know what happened to him wish they had done it differently. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it doesn't seem like something that he was prepped to do if he was serious to do it.
Yeah.
He was last seen walking towards the mountain around 4:30 p.m., dressed lightly in jeans and a flannel shirt. It's always flannel, I wrote. But probably just from having seen it come up in my cases and being like, oh my god, like obviously, and you're in the northern states or in
Yeah.
Canada, like.
I was gonna say, who are you, Canadian? Wear fucking flannel?
I literally wrote it's Letterkenny.
Yeah.
They're the best representation. Like Wayne's always wearing like a straight,
Yes.
blue and black or red and black,
like
like Canadian buffalo plaid flannel.
Yeah.
I did not learn the word buffalo plaid till I started listening to Americans that podcast that love us. Thank you, and that's why we drink. Also, there was a Letterkenny episode that just came out for May 24, and I told you, Pat always knows when there's a new episode. He found it. It's like, hey! Anywho's it. Y'all call it Memorial Day in America. So apparently, I guess this hike is at least maybe like 4 to 6 hours. That was from my memory. I didn't double check that, but
no thanks.
It was pretty long. Yeah, and also something you shouldn't start in the late afternoon.
Yeah.
So Keith did not return that night, and the next day Ted grew concerned. He had, in fact, just promised himself he would be the first to call if Keith really did go up and not come back, especially after that kind of premonition thing that he had said. Yeah, like call the rescue team. So helicopters was sent up that next day, I guess, to search the mountain, and a team of search and rescue is assembled, including 125 people and 12 dogs.
That's almost everybody that lived there.
True. Were they just all from there?
It's like 150 people, and you just said 125 people.
I know, that's true.
Jesus.
Well, especially because it said at the time of of this disappearance, I think the town was like 130.
Okay, so there's only 5 people that didn't join the search. They had to man the phones or the gas station or police. I don't know. Yeah.
Because I'm not too sure. Yeah, I'm like, wait, are they all part of the official search and rescue team? Because I know my dad's always been on a search and rescue team for his area. It's like, the municipal area. You'd only do basically around your city. And yeah, it's still a lot. It can still be a lot to cover. I don't know. This sounded like a nightmare, though. the apparent lead of the search and rescue team said that it was needle in a haystack, and that, quote, this haystack is 3,000 vertical feet of 60-degree slope, end quote.
Ooh, yeah, I mean, it's the mountains. You don't know where he, like, walked,
No,
and if there's no trails marked,
I know.
like, it's just free for all.
It's true. And then I will say it makes me think of the ones where they get lost in national parks, especially the
Yeah.
weird ones where they just seem to disappear out of thin air. Like, not that you can't get lost in a big park, but that, people will be like right with their whole party, and then one person, sometimes a child, just like say wanders off and they're just like disappear. It's just like
Yeah.
those cases fascinate and depress me, I guess. But this research that I came across was like the Colorado Alpine Rescue Teams had a reputation of finding their man. So they had so far apparently located every single person they had ever searched for, but they were not able to find Keith.
Okay.
I know. I was like, oh wow. Um the police searched his home. They found a newspaper clipping next to his computer about Tom Young's body being found, as everyone knew it had been at this point. He had just
Mhm.
attended the
Yeah.
memorial, but obviously it was consuming his mind.
Yeah.
Um, in his computer, they had the portions of his unfinished novel, and most articles like to quote this portion that. Okay, so remember the main character's name was Guy Gypsum?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So made up.
It is, but the writing was okay. Okay, so it said Guy Gypsum changed into some hiking boots and donned a heavy flannel shirt. I wrote the flannel cult.
No,
um
not the flannel.
he understood Tom now and his motivation. Guy closed the door, then walked off towards the lush, shadowless Colorado forest above. End quote. And
Huh.
most things like to quote that as being, yes, it's so poetic, and he was researching people, his character. That's the basis of him, and this other guy just walked off into the forest. Like maybe that's what he did, and honestly, I don't know. It is poetic sounding, but there's more to it though. I'll give you all the facts. Keith had also been seen at a party at the KP building, so where his friend's cafe was. Not that there's many
Okay.
buildings in town, I don't think, but that's my understanding. So this was the night before he disappeared. Apparently, he had been speaking at length to a woman, a Greta or a Gretchen. People observed him doing so. Police later found this person and interviewed her, but no, good information came of it to lead to his, you know, discovery, I guess. Um, but at that party, which was a little bit concerning, was that he was overheard telling people that Tom's death was no suicide. So it would almost
Okay.
imply that he knew something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I almost didn't see that. And I'm typing my stuff up and I'm like, oh, wait, where did I read that? That's pretty interesting. Yeah.
I mean, it can happen when you get so, I guess, so obsessed or like consumed by something, you refuse
Yeah.
to like believe that that's how it ended or something. Sometimes not necessarily even
Yeah.
that you think it's like that it's wrong, because sometimes it is 100% right and people just absolutely flat out refuse to believe that that's what happened.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, yeah. So one thing I read said that I think Keith usually carried a camera, but that he didn't the day he was missing, but didn't know if that was significant. And then I had my next bullet point said, tragically, a third man, to which I wrote, to myself, call back, third man syndrome factor.
Yeah.
It's an interesting phenomenon. Go listen to last episode, right? That was last
Yeah.
episode. I'm like, I feel like that's the last one we recorded, but we're off our normal schedule.
Yeah. And we're ahead, so like because we were an episode ahead, we got confused about which episode was next, and then
I did.
I
She
didn't
says we,
catch
I'm
it
like,
for
I
like
did.
I read it and then I like didn't clue in until I started editing that episode. And I was like, wait, didn't I just read that our next episode is disappearances? And I was like, but it's not because I'm editing this one and we haven't even recorded disappearances. I'm like, what's going on?
It's true. The more ahead you get, I think the more confused sometimes I feel.
Yeah. Oh. Anyway.
I know. Yeah. Yeah, so if you saw that and then it changed, that's why.
Yeah, I don't even remember what we said in the episode recording. What we said was next. Hopefully it was right.
Wait, what? Yeah, we've been winging it. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had to change because it's like, wait, and then we did the aliens one, and I was like,
Yeah.
We switch it up, you guys, but we come at you every week, so I'm sure you appreciate it. Okay, sorry. What did I say? So, yeah, I'll just go back. Tragically, a third man in this instance was lost when one of the search planes actually crashed and the pilot of it died.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
So, like, yeah, I mean, the other two were lost figuratively, but this guy actually physically died in the pursuit of finding these men, which is very unfortunate. He was the pilot of the plane. Yeah, his name was Terry Leddens. I believe also the co-pilot got injured, but oh my gosh, sometimes I'm like, what are these cases where like planes go missing and then other ones go after them and they all go missing? And this one, it's like one person died and then someone gets obsessed with it and then he dies and then it's just like, are we just watching a pattern? You're like,
it's weird.
Yeah. The actual Unsolved Mysteries episode, I believe, first aired about Keith on January 31st, 1990. And apparently they had like quite a few tips, but nothing really like solved it. But it's been featured a few places, also on something called Lost in the Wild. And then there was a documentary made that was started in 2014 called The Dark Side of the Mountain, and is available now on some of those streaming apps. None of the ones that I have, but
oh damn.
I was like, was it Hulu? Some of the ones I had not heard of, but so it's kind of scarce, but it's out there.
Okay.
They have like a website. I almost went back to them because I was like, oh yeah, they had some like pictures of how big the mountain was and stuff. But yeah, if you can watch it, I probably would. It seems interesting. Also, it linked me at one point to how one of his sons, again, I thought he only had one son, but was involved in the documentary project, at least in the 30-year anniversary, and he could be seen on the top of the mountain as part of the film
see
crew.
that picture. Yeah.
Yes, that one there was a picture of, and I was like, I'm putting it on. He looks quite happy that he made it to this mountain, even though, it's about his dad dying there. So I'm like, well, at least your kids are doing all right.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I think yours had oh my God, not a weird tip like the finger, but a tidbit, a clue. This one had an April 1998 an Unsolved Mysteries episode that aired about a case where a man was being called Pat Brown, but he had suffered amnesia, so that wasn't his real name. And people
Mm.
thought at first that he might be Keith, actually, because they were like, okay, so he doesn't know who he is. And then he was found in Cheyenne, Wyoming, so it wasn't like that far. It's still a
Uh,
Midwest. Wait, where were we at
yeah.
first? No, I'm confused. Colorado? Yeah, it's not that far. Wyoming, Colorado? It's all
That'd
West
be
Coast.
a long walk, though.
Oh, walk. Yes, you're right. You're right. But yeah, it definitely attracted people's attention, and they thought it might be Keith, but it turns out he was actually a man named Carl Brodnick of Indiana. So it was not Keith, and he was not Pat Brown either. He was Carl Brodnick. So sadly, Keith's son Sven died of carbon monoxide poisoning in 2001 without ever knowing what happened to his dad.
Aw.
Yeah. Sounds like he died pretty young, and also, damn, carbon monoxide. You don't think people always go from that.
It can happen. Like, I think it's most often in garages and stuff, people that have their car running in the winter here, and then they don't have their garage door
Yeah.
open, and it can build up in there, and then it can,
You
you'll
do
like
hear
pass
about
out
it
from it.
in
Yeah.
suicide. At
Yeah.
least on TV, they seem to depict suicides happening that way. And then,
Yeah.
okay, well, there is that one that's technically a true crime case that they've covered several times on like miniseries. The the young teenage boy and girl from America, and like they're both depressed, but she kind of eggs him on to suicide, and then because he like killed himself through carbon monoxide poisoning from his truck, and she kept saying, "Do it, you can do it." That they like tried
Oh, wow.
to prosecute her as well. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like I couldn't get away from it being advertised on my TV recently, or not that long ago.
Oh,
Ca-
yeah, I hadn't heard of that before.
No, it's like, oh god, no, I'm trying to remember the names and I can't cook. No, it's complicated though. Like, there's definitely some nuance to it. That's for sure. We're not going to get into it on
Yeah.
this one. That's for sure. um, but so since Keith's been missing, he's been since declared legally dead. Not that surprising.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But then, there's still the theories, which include suicide. Again, we're talking about two people, but could Tom have killed himself and his dog? I mean, they were both found shot in the head. Of course, it is possible, but I wonder why. And then why would Keith take his own life? And also then
Yeah.
say that theirs wasn't a suicide. And he had family that he was close to. So I feel like neither of them were suicide, but we haven't found Keith's body ever, right?
Yeah.
Um, then there's foul play, which I may have said this, Tom's gun was never confirmed to be the gun that the bullet came from that actually killed him. So although it was up there with him, it doesn't mean that someone didn't shoot him
Yeah.
with their gun and run off.
Yeah, it's a wooded area and he was found by
Right?
hunters, so presumably there's other
Yeah.
hunters in the area with guns.
Oh,
So
easily.
that's not
Yeah.
too far-fetched to say he could
No.
have likely been shot by somebody else.
Yeah. And this is the time. It's just pre-internet and stuff where we don't have everything
Yeah.
that we almost take for granted sometimes now, that can track you and stuff like that, which can sometimes be a good thing.
Yeah.
um but yeah, we don't know if something to do with, I don't think I said this, if they had both rented that same space, whether it was the bookstore, the antique store, it was in that building. So the theories arise that maybe they had seen something that they just weren't supposed to, although maybe it's a long shot. I was like,
Yeah.
but what? A body? Was it drugs? Like, what would it have been? Um Rumors of a serial killer also ran rampant, I guess, at this time. And one article said that the Lieutenant Stephen Gramillion was asked if there was a serial killer in Silver Plume. He believed it was possible. Quote, I mean, we have found a couple of skulls up in Silver Plume in the last few years. And when pressed for more information, he was unable to provide details due to it being an active investigation. He did state, however, that they tested the remains and none of the skulls were Keith's. The area seems to have claimed multiple lives over the years, end quote. So, people go missing there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, I barely knew how many sons he had. This one was about, quote, Keith's son, Kai Reinhard, believes his father disappeared due to foul play. In an interview with Rick Salinger, he said, I think my dad stumbled across something and he just knew too much. When asked if he thinks the mystery of his father's disappearance will be solved, Kai replied, yes, if somebody that knows something comes forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very much up to speculation. Like, why did they both take off so suddenly? And why did Keith make such a big deal of where he was going the day he disappeared?
Yeah, he told a bunch of people.
So many people. And they were like, okay, Keith, like you're kind of afraid of heights and like why would you go up there alone? So that was a weird impression to me
Yeah.
too.
It's like somebody going out of their way to be like,
Yeah,
let
make
this
sure you're
be.
known that
Yeah.
you're going up here or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Weird. Unless he
Um
never went up there at all.
well,
Dun dun dun.
it is weird because my next thing is about how the timing is so significant. Again, other people might have pointed this out. I am so smart. But no, because right after like Tom's actual skeleton was found is basically when Keith goes missing. So
Yeah.
it it's very close together. This is another quote. Author Mike Eccles, Eccles, wrote a book about the possibility of nuclear dumping in the Silver Plume area. That fall, my auto mechanic Roger Holman told me that on several occasions during the early morning hours, he had seen large trucks driving up the dead end road by his house. He said that the trucks were carrying nuclear waste from the Rocky Flats nuclear weapons plant 30 miles away, waste which was being dumped in the shaft of the supposedly abandoned mine. I did keep my mouth shut, except for telling two acquaintances, fellow freelance writer Sarah Lady and Silver Plume bookstore owner and political activist Tom Young. So could that be
Okay.
what he knew? Maybe that there was dumping.
Yeah.
That came up at least once or twice in my research. It was interesting. You know, I love a good possible conspiracy theory, but it's hard to
Yeah.
say.
I can see that. Like, because that
It's a
is
remote place. Like,
yeah, and it would be a significant health hazard. I'm sure it would affect like groundwater for that to be dumped
yeah.
down a mine shaft. So,
God, I don't love these whole mine shafts,
yeah.
which seem to be used as body catchers, at least in some of the books I've read.
Yeah. Creepy.
Another theory is that he wanted a completely new life, that Keith wanted a whole new start and left his own accord, basically. I mean, people said he had always wanted to go to West Virginia, meet a mountain mama or a Mothman. No. But just because he wanted to check out West Virginia, I hate to editorialize, but it doesn't seem to me that that would be a reason to.
Like ditch his kids.
Well, yeah, and say, I want to move away from my wife for 3 months and try it out first and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's just like, what? Don't you want to get laid while you're out there? Like, I don't know. Another theory is misadventure. Just could Keith have fallen down one of these mine shafts or something else where we just haven't been able to find his body yet? And I'm like,
Yeah. maybe.
It could be. Yeah. I mean, those park rangers and whatnot say they found everybody, but it seems to be rough terrain. So,
Yeah.
and then finally, there was a 2021 update where Keith Reinhardt's wallet was found by two hikers on Pendleton Mountain. They were actually shooting footage for a college film project at the time, but now they have pivoted to make a documentary about the case and the discovery of the evidence. So,
Okay. So they found his wallet up there now.
they found his wallet.
Like 40
So,
years later?
yeah,
Holy crap.
2021. So, yeah.
Or at least 30 years. That's insane.
No, you're right. It's closer to 40. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Like,
Okay.
what the fuck? Yeah, because with Tom, they found his remains earlier. And like that search and rescue service in the parks was like, we don't usually lose a man that we can't find.
Okay.
So in that, I will end it with what I thought was a nice quote from the plaque that now lies in the Rockies, I guess, near Silver Plume, about Keith. So not just what was the other guy? Griffin Glifford, the mine owner. But now this plaque is for Keith, and it reads, "Oh God, I want to wander. I want to wander till I die. With the mountains as my living room, my only roof is the sky."
Aw, that's cute.
That's what
I
he
like that.
wrote. That was one of Keith's, like, Keith wrote that, so that's why they put it on his little monument. And I thought that was really,
I like
really
that.
like that.
That's nice.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. I'm not much for a platitude, but I like that one. Roof is the sky. Hell yeah. I love nature-bound poetry. Makes you feel like connected to the earth.
Yeah.
But
that's
crazy.
another one. Now I need to know what happens with this one, just like mine. Be setting up fucking Google alerts and all that stuff. Like,
I did click on the Reddit thread at one point, but then I was deep into typing out what I needed to that I had already written down, so I didn't get too far into it. But I don't mind that, to be honest. I had been listening to a new one I heard about recently, Creeps and Crimes, and they had read a couple of theories on the one case that they were talking about, where it was like, this is from Reddit, and I was like, you know what? Sometimes people do have good little notes that they add into it, but depends, right? So
yeah, especially if somebody's from the area, like where it happened, and it's like, hey, I live like there, or something like that. If they have an angle, like
sometimes people have an insight. They're
a better thing.
Yeah, I heard one the other day, like, okay, well, I don't know what happened in this case, but they were like, in my case, which was similar, blah, 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 blah. And we were like, okay, all right. Yeah, it was pretty interesting, so.
Maybe they'll find something else then if they just found his wallet.
Yeah, writing out the theories for this one was like, honestly, I really have a hard time, marrying to a theory sometimes. I'm just like, got me.
This one was a weird one. Gosh.
Yeah, because there's two people, and so you're like, I definitely don't think it was just like suicide / disappearance. That seems the straightforward answer. It's like they must be connected, right? But then it's like, is our brains just, we want to connect things like this,
Yeah, I don't know.
Confusing. But what do you guys think? Tell us. Let us know in the freaking Spotify notes. I've been commenting on tons of shit because now the Spotify has the message, whatever it is, comment feature. You ever listen to an episode and you're like, I have something to say right now? As long as it's nice, you're like, boo, 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 boo. I've been doing that. Yeah, because you can do that on Spotify now. You can comment on each episode.
crazy cases. So, yeah, if anybody has more information or a theory, I would be very interested to hear, because this was crazy. Oh my god.
I know, I would love to hear like a similar case or anything.
Yeah, oh my god.
Honestly,
So
I want to hear
wild.
any stories most of the time. I'm like, what? Doesn't have to be necessarily true crime. Like, what? You got scared one time? That's awesome. I love hearing these stories.
Yeah.
They're so interesting.
But
All right,
hopefully
well, maybe
everybody.
I'll ask... What?
I was just gonna say, hopefully everybody enjoyed this week's episode.
True dat. I was gonna ask you what the next week's episode is about, because I was like, this is not my job. I never know.
I picked it because I wanted to talk about dragons. Because I feel like there's so much about dragons. And yeah.
I concur.
Yeah, we're taking, as far as I understand, like 2 different directions, or 2 different kind of like countries and histories about like dragons and stuff. So yeah, I think it'll be a long episode. My notes are really long. I had to finish them early because I'm on vacation for most of next week, so I had to be ready for us to record. So yeah,
I want to hear about
gonna
that
be another
too.
long one. Yeah.
All right, well, I'll fill in the gaps. Whatever, I forget exactly what details you were doing at the moment, but I will do something on the other side. And maybe it'll be shorter, who knows.
Yeah. But yeah, you'll have to come back and find out.
You will. Do it. You know you want to. Catch you next week. Keep it cryptic.
Bye. This has been Castles and Cryptids. You can listen to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Anchor, Breaker, Pocket Cast, and our YouTube channel. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Reddit. On our website, you can listen to all of our episodes as well as view pictures for each of our segments. Check out our Patreon page to view all of our tiers and become a Patreon supporter today to unlock monthly bonus episodes and behind-the-scenes content. We are working on an Ask Us Anything. You can submit questions by social media or by email at castlesandcryptids@gmail.com. Do you have a spooky ghost story, a creepy cryptid sighting, or a thrilling true crime tale you would like to share and have us include in a future episode? Send us your listener story by social media or by email. Please include the name that you would like mentioned. Our music is by Kobe Fair. Our logo and artwork is by Antonio Garcia. Thanks for listening.